right, ladies and gentlemen, the Pope has officially declared war on artificial intelligence. Trump cabinet speaks today about a number of different things and that we're going to cover as well, including the alleged Ebola outbreak, which I have a tendency to think is just kind of BS because the last pandemic was BS. But Bak has some very interesting, rational, reasonable counter arguments to that and why he thinks that it might actually be, even though not necessarily a psychological operation, but an operation. An intentional operation, and I want to hear what his feedback is on that as well. But we've got the Pope talking about artificial intelligence, saying that it needs to be disarmed, similar to how the Vatican has advocated for nuclear disarmament worldwide for many, many years. This all in the context of the fact that the Trump administration is suddenly extremely pro cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, other currencies as well. They're advocating hardcore for the Clarity Act. We see that the new chairman of the Federal Reserve has invested like $100 million or something asinine like that into cryptocurrency himself. Bak is going to be able to talk more about that. But very interesting to see that we have this legislation coming on board surrounding cryptocurrency. We have the Vatican declaring war against artificial intelligence. And we have this cabinet meeting that went on for 2 hours today with just one amazing thing after another. Marco Rubio, of course, speaking. Probably the most effective, not necessarily the best in terms of what's going on in the administration, but certainly one of the most powerful and effective secretaries of state that we've had in many years, maybe even going back all the way to Kissinger. So we're going to be covering this as much as possible. I think I want to start off the show by just showing the Vatican AI warning, and then we're going to show a clip of the Vatican, or the Patrick Bet-David podcast of him reacting as well. Watch this.
Will fight to protect our, quote, magnificent humanity. He delivered a stern warning against encroaching artificial intelligence in a papal teaching document called an encyclical. Julie McDonald shows us Pope Leo's concerns about AI.
Just as his predecessor, Pope Leo XIII, helped guide the church through the Industrial Revolution, more than a century later, the current leader of the world's 1.4 billion Catholics is addressing the AI revolution. Pope Leo XIV's newly released encyclical stresses artificial intelligence is not inherently evil, but says it is our pressing duty to remain profoundly human. In the letter, Pope Leo focuses on the far-reaching implications of artificial intelligence, warning the technology could hollow out the middle class, create mass unemployment, and concentrate wealth in the hands of the few.
Artificial intelligence needs to be disarmed. The word is strong, I know, but deliberately chosen because this moment needs words capable of attracting attention, awakening consciences, and indicating paths forward for humanity.
There you go, Bacchus.
So what I take from this is when you see the Vatican has been such a strong power for so long, and they're actually threatened by the rise of AI, because with the capabilities it gives the owners and with the potential for something that could be godlike, it would replace the papacy, and they're fighting for their own survival. They're fighting for their own self-interest. So I just find it to be very fascinating when one power block as old as the Vatican has to come up against the new technocratic power block. You can see where the cracks and the fissures are, and maybe that's where we have an opening to stay alive.
Do you think that the Vatican's antagonism toward artificial intelligence is primarily practical, or do you think that it's a genuine theological position?
I'm someone who subscribes to the belief that these people believe they're building an AI god. They're building in the Internet of Things. So with the flock cameras, with your devices, with the smart dishwashers, TV, they're going to be omniscient. They're going to have more information. They're going to have more capability. And you connect that to a financial system, then, you know, it's checkmate.
It's
at that
game
point.
over, man.
It's game over.
Yeah, I actually think that it's theological. Based on the conversations that we've had since we've launched this show with some of the incredible people that have come into the spaces that we have on X and spoken, I do think that the Vatican theologically believes that a soulless consciousness is a vessel or a body through which Satan can work and manifest and act. And I think this ties in directly to the fact that the Pope came out a number of weeks ago, maybe even months ago at this point, and said that none of the priests are to use artificial intelligence, large language models, ChatGPT, you name it, for the sake of writing their homilies. And I think the idea is rather than having a direct spiritual connection with God, you then allow the algorithms and the patterns and the models, which are exclusively man-made. I mean, we know that the LLMs were developed based off of large language pattern recognition across the entire internet and massive, copious amounts of data funded by the deep state in order to create these algorithms. And though it's a very useful tool, you're not going to get any divine inspiration through artificial intelligence in the way that you might if you sincerely pray about it or meditate about it. It takes the human-God connection away, even though it's practically convenient, intellectually convenient to write a homily with artificial intelligence. It's a useful research tool, but it's useless in terms of it sabotages the connection between God and the priest.
That's a really good point. But don't you also think it's fascinating that we finally get an American pope and Trump is just clashing with them left and right on every single issue? Yeah. Iran, nukes, and now AI, especially if you want to win the AI arms race, you'd think it'd be more useful to have an American pope, right? With all that soft power internationally.
I know. And I saw Anna Paulina Luna today come out and say that something to the extent of it's absolutely imperative that the United States of America defeats China in the artificial intelligence arms race. And though I agree that it would be terrible if China won the artificial intelligence arms race, it's also catastrophic if the United States of America wins the artificial intelligence arms race without finding a way to keep the deep state in check.
I'm kind of leaning towards this could be a WWE script because China is the sandbox with which we test. The technologies are developed and they're scripted here, and then they're deployed in China to see how it all plays out. It's a big sandbox. So I'm not even sure, maybe out of the catalyst of a polarization that there is an AI arms race, but it being WWE scripted, they can bring it about quicker that way. Oh, China's going to beat us. You don't want to lose to the communists.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we're giving them that technology or the concepts of the technology to deploy and test out on their own citizenry.
100%. And this is not the first time that the United States has done something like this. Like, if you look at how the Cold War ended, like less than 6 months from the collapse of the Soviet Union, all the advisors to the president of the United States were saying that the Soviet Union was continuing to ramp up its weaponization, that it was increasingly effective, increasingly a threat to the United States of America. This is right before it was on the verge of collapse. And we know that there were many months toward the end of the Cold War, and toward the end specifically of the Soviet Union, being the Soviet Union, that the country wasn't paying any of its employees. I mean, there's a famous version of Lord of the Rings that was made by the Soviet Union. I don't know if you've ever seen the clips.
I've never heard of that.
But it is the most low-budget community theater bullshit you've ever seen in your life. And the actors that performed in that rendition of it famously were not paid for months leading up to the release. It was totally under budget, underfunded, checks were bouncing, nothing was actually happening. This is while our military-industrial complex was convincing the President of the United States, the administration, that the Soviet Union was an increasing threat and increasing power. So the point I'm trying to make is we had this narrative during the Cold War that Russia was this great threat. This catalyzed, generated popular support for ramping up weaponization, militarization of the United States, obviously taxes, tax spending, new bills, legislation to ramp up.
They stacked their budget.
They stacked the budget with that threat in order to achieve an outcome that they wanted to achieve, either just because they wanted to line their own pockets or because they wanted to develop the military for other reasons. That's totally possible. But I think we're seeing the same thing with a lot of this rhetoric around China.
Yeah, you've seen it with the space race. You've seen it with the nuclear arms race. At the same time, our economists knew that they were on the verge of collapse.
Absolutely.
So now we're probably seeing the same script being played out with the AI arms race, while backroom deals have already been cut ahead of the full deployment internationally, not just China being the sandbox anymore.
Let's see what Patrick Bet David had to say about this. This is a little bit.
Well, I think he makes some very valid points. For example, the morality part.
And we don't have to watch this guy specifically, but I think that's very interesting that he laid that out. Specifically, the one where he said that artificial intelligence must not become its own religion. So he's doing a dog whistle there where he's acknowledging that these technocrats are edging on believing that artificial intelligence is this false idol.
Well, what I took from that is what gives the Christian world purpose. It is our fellowship with man and our belief in a Godhead. And they're now being replaced because the very nature of AI is going to change finance, it's going to change culture, it's going to change belief systems. And they want to be in control of all of that like they have been for the past 1,000 years. And they're rapidly on the verge of losing control of every single aspect of that now.
Yeah, you mean they're rapidly on the verge? The Vatican's on the verge of losing control of power, or the technocrats are on the verge of losing control of artificial intelligence?
Well, that's an interesting. I wasn't even saying any of that really, but
Oh, sorry, I missed you. I was
both
looking at
things
the
are
camera.
true. But think of the very nature of even tithing. If everyone's hooked up to an AI basic income system and they're being surveilled with what they do and how they buy, AI itself could outlaw all the other religions and become the sole religion in a way.
Speaking of AI monitoring transactions, things like that, what do you make of the Trump administration, the new Federal Reserve chairman, members of the Trump family suddenly coming out so pro cryptocurrency? I mean, Trump said that the last leader of the SEC basically strangled the United States, crashed cryptocurrency, outsourced or off-boarded other nations the development of cryptocurrency and the growth of cryptocurrency, so that we kind of missed out, I guess, as a nation in terms of what we could have accomplished. What do you make of why this administration is suddenly so pro cryptocurrency when basically for the last 10 years we've heard almost crickets from any administration on the nature of the technology?
Well, with the old SEC, you saw the old guard and basically the Obama, the Biden administration in place, and they were riding out the tail ends of the petrodollar. And now this is directly connected to the geopolitical war front, where you see us hemming up the Western Hemisphere. You see us trying to fight over the energy corridors, and no one's buying our treasuries and our bonds. So what they're essentially doing is now setting the floor and legalizing for the public and corporations to then buy treasuries and bonds via stablecoin.
You know, it's interesting. I actually want to play this clip. This is Eric Trump on Full Send Podcast saying that Bitcoin is financial democracy.
The premise of this is the whole system is genius, right? You're using massive compute power to otherwise kind of protect a financial system of an asset that's beyond scarce, that everybody wants, that's global and solves all the problems that I mentioned before. You know, again, you want to buy something, you could send me $1 million worth of Bitcoin right now. It could hit my wallet in 3 seconds and you practically pay zero fees. Like, tell me that every financial institution in the world isn't pissed off about that.
Oh, yeah.
They want to extract the fees. They want as many middlemen as humanly possible, because that's what keeps their 70-story buildings lit and alive, and their CEOs making hundreds of millions of dollars a year. You're pretty much bypassing all of them, and I think it's a great thing in terms of kind of financial democracy. I think that's a really, really good thing for humanity.
What do you think about Eric Trump coming out and saying that? You hardly ever see Eric Trump anymore, by the way.
Well, he has one of the biggest Bitcoin mining farms / warehouses in the country. You see the Trump family very well positioned. They were debanked when the election was stolen and persecuted pretty heavily. And what you're essentially seeing is the banks going obsolete.
Chase Bank refused to process the transactions of ticket sales to a Don Jr. rally that was about election fraud.
Well,
after
they were election interfering with everything that they were doing. And now that they've won with the help of, in my opinion, the Zionists, the whole Zionist cabal, they're well positioned for the next digital system to come online. And going to war is a big part of that. Privatizing the stable coins is a big part of that. Now citizens and corporations can buy treasuries and bonds because Japan, China, they're dumping them.
I just think that there's a couple of moving pieces here that are all tied together. I think that this conflict with Iran is ultimately about the petrodollar. Not that the petrodollar can be saved, but that its ultimate demise can be delayed. And I think that the new Fed chairman and the new cryptocurrency stance is also about managing the inevitable collapse of the petrodollar. And even though cryptocurrency seems on the surface like it has nothing to do with the conflict in Iran, which seems on the surface to be just about helping out Israel or being blackmailed or leveraged by Israel, I think it's much more nuanced and complicated than that. And I think this domestic economic policy is directly tied to our international or foreign policy.
So Professor Jiang had a very interesting point, because I've been studying and doing a deep dive on him lately. This concept is called elite overproduction, where you have so many elites and they end up forming a old guard and a new guard. So the old guard controlled the petrodollar and they controlled all the antiquated systems. They're now being challenged by the new guard, which is the Peter Thiels, the Altmans, the Elon Musks. So you're essentially seeing a civil war amongst the elite for control of the future. where the old guard rapidly loses control and they're replaced by the new guard, the technocracy coming into place right now.
It's just so fascinating because throughout history, we've had countless examples of coups against established governments, whether it's betrayals or rebellions in Rome, you name it. You can basically find a civilization, a nation that has sustained or been overcome with a coup, right? But this seems to me to be one of the most sophisticated examples of a coup, because it seems, and I could be wrong about this because I'm not an expert in history, but it seems like the first time that those conspiring to orchestrate this coup are the ones that are also concurrently in power. So there's like a coup against the establishment by the establishment in order to install a more sustainable establishment.
Well, you see this typically ahead of a massive war where each side will purge their ranks for more efficiency, to get rid of spies, to gain an advantage anywhere they can. And we're essentially seeing the quiet weapons for silent wars doctrine playing out on steroids right now. All sorts of psychotronic warfare. We have nanobots. We have medical warfare. Essentially, we have all these disease outbreaks. We have actual warfare with weapons that humanity has never seen before. And it's just going to be so fascinating to see the way this plays out. I don't see the old guard winning, and that's why I'm heavily invested in what I'm invested in, because the new guard has better weapons at hand to wage a more perfect war.
100%. And I'm glad that you mentioned the outbreak thing, because I do want to play this clip from the public cabinet meeting that took place today of Ebola coming up and Ebola containment. Let's watch.
Something else that I know is concerning people, because it's on the news, is Ebola. Our number one obligation, we're involved in foreign policy, but even our foreign policy, the number one priority of our foreign policy is to protect the American people. We cannot and will not allow any cases of Ebola to enter the United States. And so the State Department and other agencies represented here, the Centers for Disease Control, HHS, others, are working very, very hard to contain this crisis to the countries where it's currently located, particularly the Democratic Republic of the Congo. And so we've surged assistance to make sure that is being contained there. And obviously, multiple agencies involved here are also very involved in tracking people, just to make sure that nobody comes into this country that has Ebola and creates a problem for us. And we feel like we've got good efforts in place to do that, and Americans should feel assured that the president and his administration is doing everything we can to protect them on that front.
And the thing that's fascinating about this, I know that you've got thoughts, dude, but I noticed that Laura Loomer today came out and she issued a number of specific tweets pertaining to Ebola. And she positioned the tweets as if she's trying to make a prediction so that when it actually happens, of course, she can come out and say, I told you so ahead of time. I was the first one to report it. Of course, this is something that others like Alex Jones have been talking about, the topic, not necessarily the specific point that that Laura Loomer is trying to make here in her tweets. But she is basically saying this Ebola is already here. It's going to break out. She said 23 hours ago, quote, I hope you're all preparing for the Ebola outbreak that will soon be announced in the USA, right before the midterms, just on time. She says this 23 hours ago. We know that she's allegedly, at least, close to the president of the United States. He then has a 2-hour public cabinet meeting with the press, and Marco Rubio is talking about Ebola basically unsolicited. I mean, no one's really, people are writing about it every day, but it's not like a topic that's really catching. I think on slow news days, yes. But yeah, she's saying May 26th, Ebola is already in the United States. Soon it will be announced. Breaking, the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC Gov, is now recruiting volunteers from its workforce to be stationed at U.S. airports to help screen for Ebola as the deadly outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo and Uganda worsens. Shut down all travel now, right? So that's what she's reporting on. She gets insider information early. I'm sure I disagree with Laura Loomer on a lot of issues, so I'm not trying to celebrate her, but she's obviously a very well established and connected influencer in the magosphere. And she's predicting all this stuff right before it comes up in a cabinet meeting. It seems like they really are planning to ramp up the response to this Ebola outbreak. And of course, we know that under the Obama administration, there was a Ebola scare and it ended up being bullshit. It seems like this always happens right before we have a massive election cycle.
The things I find strange about that is we know how many people are disenfranchised after Massey's primary. We see that MAGA split in two. So an ancient tactic has always been to divide and conquer, and you create as much chaos as a smokescreen ahead of doing that. And if you know anything about the DRC, it's the largest country in Africa. It's one of the richest in terms of minerals like cobalt, copper, coltan, everything you'll need.
Natural resources.
Exactly. Everything you'll need to power this AI future. So I think that there's dual, maybe even tri-purpose for having this Ebola outbreak be up in center in everyone's mind's eye at this point.
Yeah, the more birds a single stone can hit, the higher priority something is for the administration, right? So whether it's a war with Iran, oh, we're doing it for the oil, and we're doing it for Israel, and we're doing it because of the blackmail, or whether it's a war with Ukraine, oh, we're doing it because we want to weaken Russia, and we want to ensure that Ukrainian agriculture is exported to Europe, right? The more birds any specific policy stone can hit, the higher the priority it seems to be in this administration. And I agree with you 100% that there could be 2, 3, 4, a dozen reasons why this is becoming an issue. I want to play this short clip on Ebola Americans sent abroad. Let's watch.
This morning, fears about the Ebola outbreak are growing as cases in the Democratic Republic of Congo are surging, surpassing 1,000.
Communities are afraid. People are dying.
Communities are afraid. People are dying.
There are a lot of rumors that are circulating. Infodemic everywhere.
It's a hard R.
The WHO is expanding its outreach, sharing information about how the virus is spread. We're raising awareness to prevent the worst, this woman says, carrying a megaphone through this refugee camp. But how are we supposed to protect ourselves, another woman asks. We don't even have soap. As the international response ramps up, the New York Times reports the Trump administration plans to send Americans exposed to Ebola to Kenya rather than bringing them back to the U.S., citing 3 people with knowledge
They're
of
all
the
staying
plans.
at Obama's brother's
the
house.
Times reporting that public health service officers are now being trained to deploy to Kenya. In past Ebola outbreaks, like back in 2014.
All right, did I ever tell you about the time that I interviewed Obama's brother in Kenya?
No, I had no idea.
I interviewed him when I was working for InfoWars, and I was asking him a lot of intentionally provocative questions because he had such a bad internet connection, and he was so fucking boring to talk to. So I just started fucking with him. Right?
Did you ask him if he's a homosexual?
I said, yeah, I did. That's what I'm gonna tell you. That's funny you mentioned that. Your intuition is on point, Bacchus.
Thank you.
I go, do you think that your brother Barack Obama is gay? I mean, they were close at one point in time. Barack stopped responding to him. Then his brother went full MAGA. He was wearing a MAGA hat in the interview. And he said, "Where there's smoke, there's fire."
That was you?
That was me, dude.
That was you? God damn,
You saw
bro.
that
Hell
clip?
yeah. I seen that.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. It was so fucking funny, dude.
Oh my gosh.
He wanted me to pay him $5,000 to come on InfoWars.
What?
I said, we can't pay you, but we can promote your book. And we promoted the fuck out of his book for the hour that he was on, but I don't think it sold any copies. And he was so pissed off at the end. He's like, I do not know why I do for free.
You are gay.
Yeah, it was a lot like that, dude.
But if you know anything about AFRICOM, this is the perfect excuse to mobilize troops because the Congo is like the breadbasket for minerals. You know, so what better excuse than to say, oh,
uranium,
Ebola, it's
too.
a conflict zone. We need to mobilize troops to make sure that we can get the medical response in and out and aid in and out. But those people bringing aid are going to be UN soldiers and AFRICOM, the United States, you know? So
what do you think about this Ebola outbreak? I mean, is it real? Is it engineered? Is it a total lie, not even happening? It seems like it's really happening if you have Uganda closing their border to the Congo.
So I was under the impression that this was seasonal, but I grokked it. It's not seasonal. I thought it was seasonal because
it just happens every time there's an election cycle.
It's been ramping up. So they've had distinct outbreaks in 2018 to 2020, then 2021, 22, 25.
That sounds fucking seasonal.
And now 26. It's not. It has to do with the wet season, dry
season. The only
season.
time it didn't happen, that's seasonal literally. It's not seasonal. It just has to do with the wet season and the dry season.
If the wet season isn't as much rainfall as they thought, then they don't have any Ebola. Yeah, so it's kind of linked to the weather cycle over there. But the big thing to look out for is if you hear that this strain, which is a strange strain, it's not the normal Zaire strain. It's I can't pronounce it. It sounds like a Lion King word. But
the Hakuna Matata strain?
Yeah, Ubangamangda strain or something like that. But if you hear that this is aerosolized, then you know this is gain of function. You're not going to bridge the gap.
Yeah, you typically you typically get Ebola from
body fluids,
right? So people are puking and shitting and you're cleaning up and you get it.
Puking, shitting, fucking, and then you get it. But if you hear that this is aerosolized, it's not going to make the evolutionary jump that quick. You know damn well it's gain of function. and it's a psyop and probably a real psyop at that point where two things can be true at once. They could, wage mind war on you by advertising this and spreading fear at the same time as having given it gain of function and souping and enhancing this to really fuck up the world.
What should we cover next?
I think I thought it was a slow news day until I seen what the Pope said and
there's no such thing as a slow news day.
If we go into the cabinet meeting, clip 109, Trump on world.
109, Trump on world. Yeah.
The infrastructure. Does the economic benefit outweigh the cost?
No, the World Cup is great. It's the most successful they've ever had. Ticket-wise, they've never had anything that sold so quickly. It's amazing because it's the United States.
What
you don't think of
benefits?
I call it soccer. It's just easier to do because we have football and they have two footballs, right? They call it football. But most people never thought they'd see anything like that. The World Cup, it's turned out to be the most successful World Cup from the standpoint of what's happening. And then,
so if you're just a soccer fan and you're just looking, okay, that's cool. The U.S. is hosting multiple sites. But if you have an Ebola outbreak, this is an international sport. You're going to have people flying in from all over the world. What better way to spread Ebola than through all the sites the U.S. is hosting, with the World Cup?
There was massive diarrhea in the World Cup.
So there's two footballs. Some people call it soccer. I can't do it, Trump.
Yeah, I can't do it either.
But that is the perfect way to deliver this bioweapon.
Do your Barack Obama impression.
Hello, it's me, Barack Obama.
We already played that one, bitch.
Oh, we already played that one?
Yeah, that was the first one I played.
Well, I think it's kind of strange. He's getting ahead with the messaging. Then we have the surrogates like Laura Loomer.
Yeah, she hits it a day ago, and then that clip that you were just going to play that
at
we
the
already
cabinet
played,
meeting.
Yeah, was today.
And there's 1,000 deaths, yeah, but there's over 1,000 deaths every time an Ebola outbreak happens. Seems a little premeditated to me.
So why would they want it? Why would they want it to be a scare? I mean, obviously, one of the main reasons, other than election fraud, that Trump lost the election in 2020 is because everything sucked so bad under the pandemic, under the Trump administration that last year. Why would he want to use or support or push another pandemic when the last one was practically his political demise, despite his resurgence? Or is he being played himself?
This is the art of war. You are signaling ahead of a state of emergency that is coming, where you're going to gain all sorts of emergency powers. So you're distancing yourself ahead of that event being, deployed. Oh, hey, we're going to do everything we can. No Americans are coming in. We sent them abroad. We sent them to Germany. We sent them to Kenya. But we're still having the World Cup. And it's going to be aerosolized. And we're probably going to need an Operation Warp Speed 2. And there'll probably be another set of pandemic laws declared, and another round of money printing, which most of it will be diverted to a war budget, in my opinion.
Didn't it just come out that Trump is now officially responsible for 27.5% of the total national debt?
I know that more money was printed between 2019 and 2023 than any point in U.S. history.
40% of all dollars printed were printed under the first Trump administration.
Yeah, so you just look for the messaging and the signaling, and you pretty much know what's coming next.
I'm going to look up this fact right now. I want to make sure that I get it absolutely right. Trump is now single-handedly responsible for 27.7% of the national debt. This is by the Twitter page GOPLs. This is dramatically more than any president in American history. It was not community noted, despite 3.2 million impressions and 122,000 likes. So it's probably true. And it's been posted and reported by many different outlets. So I don't necessarily like GOPLs as a page, but they seem to be reporting accurate information in that sense. There is a community note on another one that makes the same claim, though. Let's see what it says. The national debt accumulates over decades under both parties. Presidents and Congress share responsibility for annual deficits. Historical data does not attribute 27.7% of the current debt to any single president. Okay, that's a bullshit community note that's being suggested. It's probably not going to fly. So, yeah, I mean, a quarter of all debt.
I mean, we thought he was going to be Andrew Jackson, but he's looking more like Janet Jackson. I don't know what Janet Jackson ever did. I'm sorry for calling you out. I just ramp up to COVID. China released all those scare videos of people passing out on the street and them
and that
spraying.
Wasn't even a real symptom of the disease.
Exactly. They're working part and parcel with us because if I have my facts correct, that went viral on Weibo, which is the most prominent Chinese social media platform. And the Chinese call themselves netizens. It's very hard for a video to gain viral traction and stay viral to make it international without the CCP's algorithm either promoting it or shooting it down very quickly. So the fact that this was allowed to escape this piece of media and now go viral internationally, it makes me very suspicious.
Yeah, I agree with you. All I know, dude, is that I would rather die of a disease than suffer the retardation of how the last pandemic was handled.
If you're playing a long game with the psyops, you go, you're not vaccinated. You're the reason why we're not out of lockdown. You're the reason why this virus is proliferating. Now, remember what Bill Gates said? I think you'll pay attention to the next one. If you're bleeding out your anus, in your eyes, in your mouth, everyone's going to take a lockdown very seriously.
Only Rosie O'Donnell.
And if you don't adhere to a lockdown, you really actually will look like a loony.
You know? The real reason I think that this Ebola outbreak is total horseshit is because they tried to push the hantavirus one on that obscure boat that was in an obscure location. It obviously didn't take off because everyone was like, fuck you. Now, what are the odds that a hantavirus scare, that a legitimate hantavirus scare would come so close to a legitimate Ebola scare? It's just fucking bullshit, dude.
Well, two things can be true at once. What to look for is if this is admitted to be aerosolized. At that point, you would have a virus that's a 40-50% kill rate virus. Lockdowns absolutely would be justified. You're going to see full economic control and pandemic emergency laws put into place. China's already advertising it. We already have the Secretary of State messaging over here like, oh, don't you worry, Americans. We're not going to let Ebola come here.
What we got to do is we got to look into whether or not Pfizer, Moderna, some of these major companies have recently gotten any government contracts or launched any substantial studies to develop vaccines for hantavirus or Ebola. I would be very interested to see if they are working on developing those vaccines and started working on the development of those vaccines before the most recent media coverage of these outbreaks.
I'll grok it right now.
I bet you $1 million fucking dollars. They're working on a hantavirus vaccine. They're working on an Ebola vaccine, and there's massive funding for that. And if there is, then that's an indicator that this is all orchestrated, manufactured bullshit, just like the last one.
So as of right now, they're saying there is no Bundibugyo Ebola outbreak vaccine in the pipeline. But they do have them for the Zaire strain. That'd be Merck, Johnson & Johnson. And yeah, it's actually a really good indicator to look for in the future.
Well, I wonder if those vaccines for the other strains would still work on the new strain. If the attack vector is a common denominator across all the strains.
It says as of now, no. It's established.
What about hantavirus?
Oh, they've had, I've read reports for hentai virus for sure. They already have the vaccine in the pipeline for that.
No shit.
Mm-hmm.
So they're just riding off the end of this massive cash influx where they were making so much fucking money with these bullshit vaccines during the last fake pandemic. They're riding off of that. When that went away under the Biden administration, remember he put together the official cancer board or panel. Do you remember that?
No.
Yeah, Joe Biden put together an official cancer panel to try to find the cure for cancer, and he brought in the same pharmaceutical companies that cashed in so heavily on the pandemic, right? The idea, it was pretty obvious that he was just finding a way to shoot federal funding straight to the pharmaceutical companies on the end of the pandemic because all that revenue went away when people became disenfranchised with the vaccines. They weren't safe or effective or whatever you want to say, and stopped getting them. And not only did people stop getting the COVID vaccines, dude, but of course, that as a result of all the skepticism and the research that was done on vaccines because of the massive media coverage and the massive bullshit that was what happened under the pandemic, people aren't getting any vaccines anymore. So my family, for example, we were on the old schedule. We were doing all the ones that they recommended for our kids. I know that many of you listening will be like, Chase, you're a dumbass. I can't believe you would do that. You're a PSYOP, CIA plant piece of shit. But we were just doing normie shit with the vaccines. Then the pandemic happened. We saw all the bullshit with the Pfizer, Moderna vaccines, the mRNA vaccines. We don't do any fucking vaccines anymore, right? And that is something that's happened across millions of households in the United States of America, leading to massive revenue drop from the vaccine vector for these pharmaceutical companies. And so I think the government and the lobbyists and the pharmaceutical interests are conspiring to try to replace that loss of revenue any way they possibly can. And I think part of it is not only these cancer boards and these cancer panels, but trying to ramp up the fear of these outbreaks that are happening, whether it's hantavirus or Ebola, so they can justify massive funding for prevention.
Well, one thing that gives me hope for the Trump administration is we did withdraw from the World Health Organization ahead of these pandemics or would-be pandemics breaking. But who knows if that's a long-term play where our pharma companies benefit from that even more. Because now we don't have to share technology. We don't have to share these patents. And you have to come to the U.S. and our big pharma corporations for these vaccines ahead of our military-industrial complex releasing them, potentially.
Yeah. Do you remember when we were in the WHO and that, I can't remember if it was Pfizer, Moderna, or another company. They had a representative on a call and they were asked if they believed that Taiwan was Taiwan or Chinese Taipei. And the guy was like refused. He was like an American dude. He refused to say that Taiwan was its own nation, its own independent nation. It just goes to show how entrenched the CCP is and influential in the WHO. It's probably why we pulled out, which is directly tied to the conflict with Iran, which is actually a war with China, directly tied to the artificial intelligence arms race and the space race that we're in right now.
This whole thing could be fake and gay. For all we know, Trump could have went over there and cut deals with the CCP way ahead of all of these things being released. Because the natural alliance for the world would be U.S. has the technology, Russia has the resource space. But in light of the Ukraine war and the European theater going hot, maybe we struck a side deal with China. Because we are joined at the hip still, our economies are. And our economies are both desperately in trouble. Just something to think about.
Man.
Should we get into more of the war front now that we're getting to the geopolitics?
Yeah, let's talk about war.
So if we go into 112 Ukraine weapons, we have Zelensky in a very stylish Gucci Ukrainian suit asking for more weapons in light of us withdrawing them and giving them to Israel.
You do not need to build roads. Give all your money to the weapon. Do you remember that clip?
No.
You never saw that fucking famous Zelensky clip? Hold on. Before we play your clip.
I seen the cocaine rock falling out of his nose, though. That was pretty epic.
Let's see if Darvis can find this clip. This is an obscure one. This is, I think, right before, maybe even the same day that he had that famous moment with J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, and Trump in the Oval Office. He goes, you do not need to build roads.
Do you remember when that 8-ball fell out of his nose, though?
What?
Yeah, Zelensky was giving an interview. He had like a 1.2 fall right out of his nostril.
You want to build roads? You do not need to build roads.
I don't fucking need roads.
Send all your money to the weapon.
Just give me cocaine and rockets.
Dude, it's not finding this fucking clip. Oh my God, it's driving me nuts. I cannot believe it's not finding it. Hold on, one more time.
One more time.
Send all your money to the weapon. It should find it, man. I used to play this clip on InfoWars all the fucking time. If we fail this time in the search, though, I will play your clip immediately. Zelensky will beg for weapons and money. Ukrainian president asked for faster. This might be the clip, but I don't want to chance it. So, fuck it. We're going to abandon that. You want to play 112, you said?
Yeah, 112 Ukraine weapons.
На цьому тижні я підготував спеціальний лист.
This week I drafted a special letter, the letter to the President of the United States and to Congress, and yesterday the letter was sent to the relevant institutions in Washington. It is rare for leaders of another country to address both the President and Congress of the United States of America, unless it's Bibi Netanyahu. At the same time in a letter, but the situation now is such that we must act swiftly and act effectively. Just like you predicted, Bak, that everything was ramping up in Ukraine.
Everything.
We understand that much of the world's attention is currently focused on the war in Iran. Fuck Iran. Give all your money to the weapon. We must also stop the war here in Europe, a very bloody war that has been raging at full scale for the 5th year now. I can't believe they lasted 5 years. And the sooner we can provide more protection against ballistic missiles, the sooner we can make diplomacy work. So he's saying, fuck Israel, give us all your shit. As long as Russia relies on missiles, its interest in diplomacy is insincere. We must fix this, and we can only fix it together with America.
Now, that's pertinent. If we play this other clip in tandem with that, our military obligations are being stretched thin all around the world, and we are being over-leveraged. And as I've alluded to in previous episodes, we're going to have to pick and choose which allies to support. And in doing that, the faults will start to come out in our security alliances, and people will run to BRICS. You can see this is all, the warfare front is tied very intimately with the economic front. If we do 113 cabinet meeting, Oman.
the Strait of Hormuz. Would you accept a short-term deal that allows Iran and Oman to control the strait? And would they have to open it immediately, or would you be open to that happening over a period of time?
No, the strait's going to be open to everybody.
And who would control it?
It's international waters. Nobody's going to control it. We're going to watch over it. We'll watch over it, but nobody's going to control it. That's part of the
So we're going to control it.
that we have. They would like to control it.
Allegedly.
Nobody's going to control it. It's international waters, and Oman will behave just like everybody else, who will have to blow them up. They understand that. They'll be fine.
Mr. President, thank you. How much economic pressure do you feel to get the Strait of Hormuz open?
Well, you have to say, the United States has so much oil that we are an exporter of oil. So we have plenty of oil. We're very lucky. We're blessed with the greatest piece of land in the world from that standpoint, and we have more than anybody else. And now when you add Venezuela to it, we have, I think, 64% of the world's oil. And we're getting along very well with Venezuela, by the way. It's being run really beautifully. The big companies are moving in. It's going to be amazing, because it's also, like us, they're very blessed in that sense. But we have natural energy that no other country has. We have
And if
more
we
than
could play
anybody
one
else.
more clip,
So
this would kind of show you
it's really
what the
a
hell's
world
really
problem,
happening
because
here.
most of the world doesn't
Which one?
have that.
116, expansion of war.
For the second year in a row, we're at historic recruitment rates. Last year, we said that here. This year, we beat it even faster. The American people are excited about what you're bringing to our department. Our defense industrial base, $50 billion in private investments. Because of the meetings you've held, defense manufacturers are investing in new plants and new manufacturing, new production lines, so that we're getting weapons faster than ever. And then the $1.5 trillion that you've committed to the department.
And this is really
going
pertinent
forward,
right here.
That's 1 million American jobs. 1 million American manufacturing jobs. That's Golden Dome for America. That's F-47. That's B-21. That's 50 billion in drones. We're going to lead the world in drones, shaving years off of production of all of those, everything under budget and ahead of schedule, which is what the warfighter
Now it's coming up.
deserves. And we saw it. You mentioned Venezuela, Mr. President. You saw it on display there. Think of the fact that our Southcom commander just landed via helicopter at our embassy peacefully at the welcome of the Venezuelans, because we're now partnering with them, hopefully, even on the counter-cartel mission as we secure our hemisphere. So we've secured that southwest border. We're going to war with the cartels through the America's Counter-Cartel Coalition. Venezuela is a big part of securing our energy future and defending the homeland. And then I just want to note one more thing to give you a sense of how committed this president is. Maybe a year ago, he heard the call of Nigerian Christians who were being targeted and killed by ISIS in Nigeria. And he said, Pete, I want the War Department to focus on ensuring that we do everything we can to protect those Christians. Partnerships like that can take time behind the scenes, but he never wavered on it. And we got the assets there, and over the last month, and there hasn't been much coverage of this, we killed ISIS #2 in Nigeria, who's most responsible for killing Christians and trying to target the U.S. homeland, and have since, because of the intel we gathered, killed hundreds of ISIS members who were targeting and killing Christians in Nigeria, creating a whole new opportunity there. So there's a lot of things we do that the media pays attention to, and a lot of things that the president empowers the department to do on behalf of the American people that he deserves great credit for.
Thank you.
So he just made two very important points right there. What is a counter-cartel war? That means waging war in Mexico, because that's who runs Mexico.
We got Mexico, we got Cuba, we got Ukraine, we got Iran, we got Colombia.
And all those
Taiwan.
narco states. We got Nigeria, which means AFRICOM is going to be reinforced, and we're going to expand it probably under the guise of medical assistance. So America's on a war footing like never before in history. We're on a total war footing on multiple fronts. We have allies requesting help all over the world, all over the globe, and it's going to be fascinating to watch, folks.
You excited to get drafted, Bak?
Well, I'm 36,
Yeah, why
so I'm
you
probably
sound
not going
so
to be.
excited?
Well, because I like geopolitical analysis. I'm not excited
I do
for
too,
war.
but you sound like so. Are you? So tell me about what the allies that are begging for our help. Like what allies?
Where was
Ukraine,
Gondor when the Westfold fell?
Taiwan, all the Gulf Coast states besides Israel.
Yeah,
Because
we just canceled that massive arms deal with
what?
Taiwan.
Did you just hold on a second? So you're saying that Israel's not asking for our help, but all these other countries are, and you think okay?
no,
go ahead.
Israel's asking for our help and they're getting it.
Maze-
all these other
Maze,
allies are asking for help and they're not getting it at this point.
Maze, we were just teasing you when we were making fun of crystals.
Oh, don't bring that up
Yeah,
again.
no, I know.
Jeez.
Listen, Bak got cussed out last night.
I
and
heard
For
he was,
no
he was like
reason.
he was kind of offended about it today.
I know but listen, we talked, and then I explained how he's kind of like a jokester. Listen, because you don't understand how a lot of MAGA people are, like the very Christian ones that come in and they say some really foul shit. But I think that she thought that you were, I don't know, like I don't know,
trying to
talking
come
shit
down on her.
versus like I mean, I was like, he's just being judgy. You know what I'm saying? He judges me.
I wasn't even judging. I gave one thumbs down emoji, and I made one Crystal Girl comment, which I was kidding about, and I got called fake and gay, judgmental, like all this shit, and I was like, "Why don't you don't even know me?" I
know, but
what the fuck?
Listen, trust me. That's one of my best friends. I love her. She totally said she was gonna apologize to you next time she sees you, but she wasn't sure about how you were coming at her. But she also was in the middle of reason why I had to drop off was there was some stuff going on. So it was kind of straight fire at the same time.
I just thought you were coming hard at Bach tonight because you were mad about the crystal shit. I wasn't there last night.
Why do you
I
even
love
bring it up?
Bach. What are you talking about? I'm always like Buck. Tell him. Am I not always like gassing you up and pulling you up on
We
stage?
love and support everything you do, and I try to repost every space to my 500 follows. But we could have had an intellectual debate about that. Is all I'm saying. Like, I don't even think I think crystals are a material made from God. I'm joking about the crystals, and I've explained my position to you. I don't think most Christians should be engaging in divination and soothsaying because, I don't even think it's necessarily bad. I just don't think it's for the majority of Christians for a reason. Like when Moses got sent down to the Nile, God put him into the palace, the temple in Egypt, and he got initiated into Egyptian mystery schools. Yeah,
but the Nile isn't just a river in Egypt.
Yeah, you're not helping the situation. But either way, I just wanted to forget about all that. But then Chase brought it up, and I'm sorry. Tell your friend I'm sorry. I'm not being conceited or judgmental or any of that. That's all. Like, I don't even know her. Why would I do that?
She just hates you because you're white.
It's because
she told me, I swear to God, she sent me the sad face this morning and said, "Oh, I feel so bad. I'm going to apologize to him. The crime didn't deserve the punishment."
We're still waiting.
Dude, stop.
She did. No, she's one of the most amazing people in the world. Listen, I promise it's not a big deal. I'm glad we talked about it and got it out the way so you don't feel uncomfortable coming to those spaces.
Yeah. Just because you're a small Korean man doesn't mean that you're excluded.
Bro, I'm 5'8". Don't you ever.
Are you 5'8"?
Yeah. We were talking about short kings yesterday in that space, and I was like, I can't say shit. I better marry a WNBA player and
What's
break the
the
curse.
threshold for being considered short? 5'6"?
Like 6 feet. Under 6 feet, you're short.
For a man?
Yeah.
I would say, never mind. I'm kind of tall. I shouldn't say that. I would say like 5'10"-ish is usually... 5'11" and up is, I don't know. Let me just show. I'm 5'7.5", 5'8". So like I would say that for me, 3-inch heels, and I'm still looking up at you. That's cool.
Well, those are heights I'll never reach. So we'll just get off this.
What do you think about men who wear extenders in their shoes to look taller? What are they called?
Listen, swag can make up for all of that.
I don't know if they're wearing those fucking inserts.
They can't. Yeah, they
you
can't.
imagine taking off your. Why are you always fucking me with your shoes on?
Yeah,
I thought socks were bad. You won't even take off your fucking Adidas, man. That's wild.
Where the hell we were on geopolitics?
Jamie Foxx wears those.
Yeah, I had some. So I don't know how you guys. I guess feel about the whole camp. Did you guys talk about the whole? Well, what didn't go to camp, David? I don't remember where they had it, but the whole thing where they were raving about all the wins and Pete Hegseth compared Trump to George Washington and Abraham Lincoln. Did you guys listen to that whole thing?
No. What are you talking about?
Was that today?
That's embarrassing. Oh my! Who would do that?
Well, it was today. They met today where they talked about
the cabinet meeting.
We've covered a lot of the cabinet meeting, but not that specific
Wait,
moment.
AJ, how was your date last night?
Oh
my God, I hate y'all. It was fun. Listen, we hung out 2 days in a row. So it's going well.
Hold on, here it is. Hold on, let's play this.
And he's 6 feet, you assholes.
Well, you've heard from me. So now it's the main event. Our commander-in-chief. I have the privilege every single day of watching him put America first, of ensuring that our warfighters have everything they need. His compass is clear. He's easy to follow because you know he has our back. I was thinking backstage, the man who was the commander-in-chief when the War Department was created
was George Washington. And then here he is today, I
the man
think.
who was president when the war.
Great success.
Yes, sir.
Including Venezuela, you might talk.
Absolutely, sir. I think actually your efforts on the reflecting pool are actually a great segue. If you look at Washington and Lincoln, these are two men that faced monumental tasks and stood up in historic fashion and delivered for the American people. And when you step back and look at 47 years of what Iran waged war against us and our people, there's only one man over the course of both presidency who has stood up and said they will never get a nuclear weapon, as Marco said. So whether it was Qasem Soleimani, whether it was scrapping the Obama deal that was going to give them a weapon, whether it was the 12-day war or Operation Midnight Hammer, you created the conditions to ensure the American people and the world are safeguarded from this generational threat. And
Well, there you go. There's a couple of occasions where he's compared him.
Yeah, he's just.
I always thought
listen,
that he was more like Jesus Christ.
I would just say that, like, okay, my personal feelings about him aside, I would say that there's still, I can't point to a time where he actually says anything truthful, whether it be the conditions of the war and the status of the war and what's really going on and the reasons for the war. Like, he just lies and
Or whether he says, I promise to be faithful to you until death do us part.
He's just a soundbite guy. That's all. He has no substance. He's full of shit.
I would argue he was on track, relatively speaking. Like, we were getting some of our platform, like just checking the checkboxes off the first 6 to 8 months. And then something happened.
What did he do the first 6 to 8 months that you
Like when he
with?
shut down the border and then he ramped up ICE and then he started deportations. But then like 8 months in, like maybe 4 or 5 months ago, it just really started to go fucking sideways.
You're talking about Trump though, right?
Yeah.
She's talking about
I was
Hegseth.
talking about Hegseth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Pay attention.
He's
you
always
fucking
had great
chink.
hair.
Yeah,
No.
he does have great hair, and he's got cool tattoos.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the Iranian Lego, they made his hair look all slick back.
Yeah.
Did you guys know that Erica Kirk has a tramp stamp?
Yeah, I did know that actually.
That's going to come
Of
up
course
as
y'all
often
know
as
that.
possible.
I had no clue.
Amazing. I need a picture. Who has it?
We showed it before. You can Google it. She had it in the music video. I'm not sure if it was real, but they slapped one on her.
In the music video?
Yeah, she was in a music video. You didn't know this?
I don't pay enough attention to that woman.
Oh my god,
That's amazing.
she's a country music sensation.
Good for her.
Bach loves talking about Erica Kirk.
Yeah, I don't, aside from her looking like JD Vance, I ain't got much else.
I get all these clips ready for the show and we just get fucking derailed so hard.
Go. Play your clip.
Fine. What other clip you want to play, Bach?
Well, I was going to get into...
Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon?
No, that was Wars of Info fucking memeing me up like Buddha so bad, dude. That's another devastating blow I'll never recover from. But if like Congress is, even Trump aside, with like suspending the arms deal to Taiwan, Congress is now voting on a $1 billion package to Taiwan. And then I was going to get into like the fertilizer shortage. Because
Let's do it. I want to talk about fertilizer.
All right, EU FERT.
No, let's do the Congress $1 billion to Taiwan, and then we'll go into it. All right.
Mm-hmm.
U.S. Congress is looking to provide Taiwan with $1 billion
Holy shit, she looks just
in
like you.
defense aid.
With long
A
hair.
U.S. House Armed Services Committee bill included the funding for the Taiwan Security Cooperation Initiative to help Taipei bolster its self-defense capabilities. It would be part of the U.S.'s defense funding for next year. Taiwan's defense minister thanks Washington for its ongoing support. This committee is set to review the bill next week.
So even if Trump suspends an arms package, like Congress is going to keep voting for this, and we're going to go into a headlong collision with China regardless.
Should we hit 119 too?
Yeah, 119, because it tells you the implications.
$1 billion of investment in just the U.S. semiconductor production here in the United States. When you talk about all that trade and the booming trade and the growing trade relationship between the U.S. and Taiwan, a lot of it comes back to the semiconductors.
On Wednesdays, we wear
I first
pink.
want to speak to you about the semiconductors kind of in the context of defense, because if there was any type of interruption of semiconductors coming out of Taiwan, one would think that the global economy would feel that pretty quickly. Do you have any estimates on what a blockade of Taiwan could do to the global economy, to the U.S. economy when it comes to access to chips?
Well, I mean, there's been many estimates of what would happen, what would be the cost or the losses of world trade if there was ever a conflict in the Taiwan Straits. And there are different results, but they're all in the trillions.
Mm-hmm.
What's happening in the Strait of Hormuz will be nothing compared to what would happen if the Taiwan Straits were ever into conflict. So again, it is important to keep the peace stability of Taiwan, and we are, trying to keep that status quo.
Are you my dad? But the Strait of Hormuz is 20% of oil production. If the Strait of Taiwan and the Strait of Malacca gets blocked, we're absolutely fucked. Like, American GDP would shrink by half overnight. And so that would be an unprecedented situation.
Yeah, I saw a clip. I can't remember who it was earlier. It might have been Elon Musk or someone else. Today, I thought I had the clip actually say that if we lose semiconductor production dominance, even if we win the AI arms race, China will still win ultimately because they'll just steal the IP and they'll have all the hardware infrastructure in place, right? So that's really what the interest about Taiwan is. It's
well,
100%
the whole world would lose, because even if China tried to restart that whole fab production, they would never get it online in time. Like, the whole world loses at that point. But this might be our golden goose. This might, like, if fab production goes down, they can't get the AI surveillance state in place.
Yeah.
And then we could all just have bonfires and cook s'mores and kumbaya and just be Americans and fucking bro the fuck out, you know? So that maybe it's not a bad thing then.
Sounds wonderful. What's next? Fertilizer.
Well, just on the China part really quickly, if you guys didn't know, they're after the meeting last week, they're, because of Qatar specifically, 17% of the attacks on Qatar's LNG, 17% of their LNG is offline for 5 years. It's going to take them to be able to rebuild it. So China got a majority of their, I think it was a huge number of their percentage-wise of their LNG from there, but they're now getting it from none other but the United States. So I think that that's pretty interesting, considering we just went through this whole tariff war and all that stuff. But it does seem like there's some good relationship building that's happening.
Yeah, I alluded to the fact that we might have struck a backdoor deal with China when Trump went over there, because we're so heavily dependent on China and China's so heavily dependent on us, which you could see why he gave them the caveat. Should we get into the 117 EU fertilizer?
Yeah. Look,
Today will be a number of things to be discussed, including the Fertilizer Action Plan, enhancing our own resilience and our own production of fertilizer within the EU has to be a key priority, and reducing our dependency on imports. This is something that is really important, and Ireland will work both now and throughout our presidency on that plan and to make it impactful for our farmers and for food security. What we have to do is protect our consumers, protect food security, protect our farmers. This is a very significant input cost for our farmers, and that challenge is there. And I think the fertilizer plan has a lot of detail that both I and my officials are working through, and I look forward to discussing it with colleagues and hearing their perspective on it today too. I believe we have short-term interventions that are there, and us in our Irish government, we have supported our farmers with the significant energy shocks around fuel prices, and we've been able to have that immediate intervention. But you also need medium to longer term interventions. Whenever the conflict in the Middle East ends, there will be a fallout from that will continue for some period.
It's never going to end. But the silver lining here is when we have industrial fertilizers go offline, maybe God works in mysterious ways and we'll see the reintroduction of permaculture and regenerative farming.
Have we figured out whether or not we're totally fucked?
Yeah, because you're fucked in the short term.
This year. Did the farmers ever get their fucking fertilizer?
40% of their inputs are missing. So 40% of the fertilizer they would have bought and then used in the field.
They're supposed to be planting that shit like now.
Exactly.
So what is the yield this year? Just going to blow ass?
It's going to be a terrible yield, which is why you should go to places like Aldi's or whatever the discount groceries are and just buy as much canned food as possible. It's not the healthiest, but at least it's better than starving to death, you know?
What's going to happen is there's going to be lower supply, right? So the price is going to go way up. We'll probably decrease exports so that we can have food domestically. That's fucking wild.
Yeah, plant a victory garden.
Maybe that's why China agreed to meet with us, because they're freaked out that we're not going to be able to send them any soybeans this year, and they're trying to figure out how to end the conflict so we can get fertilizer.
They're the nation that's stockpiled the most inputs of any other country in the world. They have the most pork in freezers. They have the most beef. They have the biggest strategic oil reserve. They have the biggest coal reserve right now. The biggest grain reserve.
They stopped exporting gold.
I didn't even know they stopped exporting gold.
Yeah, they've been only importing gold for some time, and none of the numbers are reliable that they're officially announcing, because they're so secretive about it, but it's believed that their gold is just massive.
Well, isn't it rumored that they found Genghis Khan's tomb? Like, I've heard this a while ago, and if you know anything about the Mongols, they bury their leaders with all the wealth, and then, like, the people who went to go bury them, they get killed, so no one can ever find the tomb. So if that's true that they found Genghis Khan's tomb, then their gold reserves are way more than they record on paper. Just a little thought for food for thought.
What do you think they did for the guy that found it?
Oh, he's fucking dead. Without a doubt. Without a doubt, dude. You're not I would never even report I found it. I'll just pretend I didn't find it.
Would you take it?
You're not getting away with that much gold.
Just a little bit.
Hell no.
You would just pretend it never fucking happened.
I would pretend I went on a camping trip, caught a few trout in the stream, and then I just bounce out and be like, nothing to see here, folk. Nothing to see here.
You wouldn't go up to some gold buyer in China and be like,
no.
I found this coin. He'd be like, where did you find this?
Yeah. Hell fucking no, dude.
I'd fucking grab all the gold, bro. I'd get all my teeth redone.
Yeah, you just have a gold grill.
Yeah, Genghis gold, baby.
Inevitable. Did you find the Genghis Khan? Who was it?
It was me. Yes, I wanted to clarify that. Yes, but no, I wanted to just touch on the Taiwan matter too. Well, and you mentioned Maze earlier about the ethane. Yeah, Qatar's LNG trains, they had a pretty big disruption and they had to do force majeure. But I think from the U.S., the main thing that we've been getting is energy-wise has been ethane or ethane. And typically it's a petrochemical feedstock, I guess, just for maybe those who might not be looking into that regularly. But we jumped in our ethane imports from the U.S., we as in China, by like about 1 million tons. And I think that from where we're at, like we have tons of sources for that. Like we can get it through Mongolia, we can get it through Russia. So if the U.S. wanted to play hardball, we have plenty of other ways to kind of go and divert our imports and diversify. But Chase, as Chase mentioned, I believe, we have certainly stockpiled quite a bit with our pretty much everything you can think of. And by the way, we haven't touched our strategic reserves yet. We haven't even touched them.
1.6 billion.
I heard that we have been.
Yeah.
I heard we have been using our.
He's saying we because he's in China.
Oh,
he's Chinese.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I am in China. So yeah, we as in China has not touched the strategic petroleum reserves just yet because the production has reached all-time highs. Domestic production. I heard something about like 4 to 5 million barrels. Man, I guess per day. I'm just not. I've got to double check, but I know it's at record highs, and so we've literally been replacing what we're lacking so far. With that. Now, it's not obviously maybe 3 rounds down the line, especially if the Strait doesn't open. We might have to start getting into those. But next month, the U.S. is going to be using up 120 million barrels of its strategic reserves, and it'll be down roughly half of its supply. So it'll only have about 200 million barrels left, roughly. And again, if you don't get the Strait open, obviously, and through other means, unfortunately, the oil isn't nationalized in the U.S., so prices are going to skyrocket quite a bit.
Are you in a tier 1 city?
Yeah, a new tier 1, yeah, in Hangzhou.
What do you see on the street, like economy wise? Because ever since the Evergrande crisis, like China does have a big, from what my own research, they have a big problem with their domestic economy. Is that what you're seeing on the streets?
Oh, no, I really haven't seen any change whatsoever this year from the beginning. I think if anything, everything I see is like literally, okay, so like if I go out to the Westlake or Wulian night market, people are everywhere. And so here we have Alibaba. That's kind of like a huge at least in Hangzhou. And yeah, Hangzhou, that's kind of like one of the hugest points of commerce and well, economy as well. And a lot of people work there. But no, I think just when it comes to housing, I think it was a huge matter of, see, it wasn't a housing crisis, right? It was a, if you will, development issue. And quite a bit of it has been nipped in the bud intentionally, right? So just I guess like the idea, and Xi Jinping has said this, housing is not for speculation, housing is for living in. And so there's been a concerted effort for quite a while to prevent this whole over speculation thing, and how developers were getting pretty gung ho and gun happy, and obviously appraisers as well, because they wanted to maximize on the opportunity there was for demand, right? And the concern was that demand was not nearly matching the production for building for real estate pretty much anywhere, right? So if you want to say real estate crisis, maybe in some extent that was a problem, and we saw the Evergrande collapse in 2021. But now, no, I wouldn't say. If anything, people are really, especially moving out from the countryside and really filling these, so-called ghost cities, right? That's been mostly dispelled as far as like the whole China's filled with empty apartments. Hangzhou, we don't have to worry about that. There is a shitload of people here. We are the closest city, basically, that you might recognize to us might be Shanghai, because it's kind of like south of Jiangsu, and I'm in Zhejiang province. So Hangzhou is kind of like a competitive sister city to Shanghai, and there's a shitload of people here. So there's no shortage.
Can you provide some context? Inevitable. I'm sorry, I'm not super familiar with you. I know that I follow you, but can you provide some context as to who you are? Have you always been a Chinese citizen? You have a very Americanized accent.
Yeah, I haven't lived in China my whole life, but I've been in Hangzhou for the last 2 years. And yeah, I've frequently dabbled. I try to keep a super anon status, but yeah, I am a European though, so obviously European white American. So as far as like my roots do come from that, but I've lived in China and Russia for most of my life. So I guess that's maybe the way I will.
Sure.
I will summarize it that way.
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to impede on your anonymity. I'm just trying to get some context as to who you are. I saw your bio says China first, and I'm just interested. I always want to see something.
Absolutely.
With it,
I have one more question, Inevitable. Do you see any sort of political stability crisis? Because recently Xi just crushed his allies that he came up with. They're like essentially his childhood friends. Do you see any fallout from that with the two top generals of the PLA being taken into custody? I think 5 months ago.
Oh yeah, well, Zhang, I think his Zheng Yuzha, he was a general. So I don't know if you want to say crushed your allies. Look, I know that general Zheng Yuzha, I believe his name was. He got fired, and the Western media called it a purge, which it's just so typical, right? It's like, well, 30 top generals pretty much got fired for refusing to comply with the illegal Iran war, and you can imagine, like, just imagine if you had the media saying they were purged, oh my God, and now it's like, oh, they haven't been seen since. It's like, well, that's just dramatic, right? But the reality is, it as far as why there's been such like a house cleaning campaign, like Li Shangfu and like Guo Bijong, I think a few other people. I just can't remember on the top of my head. Like a huge factor of this is a matter of maintaining elite cohesion and making sure that there's military readiness, because it's always been clear, I think for the last 10 years, that the date for military readiness for the People's Liberation Army for a Taiwan operation will be 2027. The military needs to be prepared for a direct confrontation with the U.S. military by 2027. And so if there is any sort of shortage of will or preparation or metal or any sort of character shortage or let alone corruption, then that's just simply not acceptable. And so the purges, so-called purges that you see are actually just house cleaning and people who've either been corrupt or just simply not prepared. And I think the latest example was, he was a long-term friend of President Xi, but look, that just goes to show, well, what happens when you're long-term friends with, Western politicians, especially in America, right? You usually get some, kickback, and your corruption is promoted and protected, and you get pardons, blanket pardons sometimes. But if you are corrupt or inept in China, you get removed and you get sent home. That's all.
Oh, so my Chinese research is trash. Shit.
It's not your fault. Look, they spend 1.6 billion, I think it was, right, on anti-Chinese propaganda. That's passed by the House and the Senate. So, it's not your fault. Anyway.
How much does China spend on anti-American propaganda?
Well, look, I don't think China spends anything on anti-American propaganda. I think it's individuals who might have bad things to say about America can certainly say it, but I definitely don't see any sort of centralized narrative whatsoever, especially not in the political apparatus. We have far more things to worry about than dunking on America. I think America does a good job at dunking on itself.
What's your take when Jack Ma said China doesn't have an economy? It's centralized, it's top-down planning, and then he went into hiding for like 2 months, or I think he was on house arrest, and then he came out looking like a zombie.
Well, Jack Ma, I'm not a personal fan of the guy, even though I know obviously, he's a big deal around my parts, my neck of the woods.
That's China's
Hangzhou,
Elon.
But no, that's debatable. But look, we have one of the most dynamic large-scale economies, right? So 18 trillion GDP, and we have tons of new productive forces, and the claim that we don't have an economy ignores empirical reality. It ignores everything that's made 800 million be removed from poverty possible, right? We are a hybrid socialist market economy. And we have a top-level design, and we do 5-year plans that are transparent. Everybody in the world can literally read them, and we provide macroeconomic stability, national priorities, and obviously risk mitigation, right? And so, we do emphasize certain aspects of our economy from a national security basis, such as the energy sector, for example. And even then, there are huge lanes for privatization, as he would know, right? But especially like in energy, for example, the refineries are 25% privatized. So meaning if you are a refinery, as we have teapot refineries here for oil, then you are delegated 25% of the overall expected oil refining for the year, right? And so these businesses prepare for that. They know, okay, we have this, the government's going to give us this based off of this performance. And so businesses are able to plan and hedge for the model that we have. So the U.S. Western model is like a short-term shareholder capitalism, regulatory capture by finance, and really with chronic inequality and a lot of times policy paralysis, right? And that's why things have deindustrialized in the U.S. and why the infrastructure has decayed. But in China, we have a long horizon sort of like stewardship that delivers consistent industrialization and technological leaps that obviously I think we could literally sit here and talk all day about. But hope that he's wrong. The whole thing about he disappeared. He said himself that he didn't disappear, but if he wants to disappear and go back to Israel to kiss the wall and hug the wall again, he's free to. I would love that. In fact, he can stay there if he wants.
I'm in the middle on that because that dude was not looking healthy when he reemerged. It looked pretty complied.
I'm sure he would look great. He would glow in Israel.
If China spends $0 on anti-American propaganda, then the CCP is retarded.
Well, look, my point is that, like, if you see anti-American propaganda from China, it's not this like national directive or even this large-scale governmental directive, in large part because, again, when you look the 5-year plans make it clear, right? And policy is quite public and transparent, right? Now, operators, the thing is, a lot of times what you see is individual operators or even if you want to say cartel of operators who will create, push narratives and push agendas, right? But you don't want to conflate that with the government in the same way where if Elon, or maybe I should name someone else considering what platform we're on, but if Jeff Bezos created this cartel where he's just like trafficking opium into like another country, is that America doing it, right? Is that the taxpayers? Taxpayer money could be used, but eventually it's like, okay, he's doing something on his own volition, and that's not necessarily the state, right? You have to prove that. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. I just don't agree.
Can I just say something? Because that's a bunch of BS. Look, in China, you're free to be a millionaire and you'll live a pretty free life for the most part, except for this free speech stuff. But if you become a billionaire, you're controlled, right? And this is coming from people I know who are at that level and deal with Asia and refuse to go there because of that reason. If you're in billionaire
Joe, I didn't
status,
deny that. Like you have
no,
guardrails. Yeah.
well, you just said that he didn't get taken and blah blah. He might not have been put somewhere, but he's definitely controlled by the government now because because he's at a billionaire level. He's no longer free to do exactly what he wants anymore.
So no, well, billionaires are not free to do whatever they want in China. I think we can maybe even level on that. And by the way, it's not like he was taken away and tortured either, right? I just want to make that sure that's clear.
Yeah, I didn't say
I'm
that
sure
either.
he was.
I don't think
No,
he
that's
was
okay.
taken away and tortured. He was told, "Hey, we need to say yes on some of this stuff."
You better shut your mouth. You shut your mouth, Jack Ma, or we shut it for you.
Chase, is that you or is that?
That's Bach.
I'm the resident Asian. I can do that. You shut your mouth, Jack.
You shut your dirty mouth.
Well, they call them little emperors, so like they use them for like propaganda campaigns. From my research, but
they don't spend any money on propaganda in China, dude. Everything's organic.
I mean, it's going to be in the middle. Obviously, Inevitable is very
We
pro-China.
didn't tell him to say that. We didn't tell him to send out videos to everybody collapsing in a subway ahead of COVID-19 to induce a scare.
What's your take on the social credit score system? Is behavior forced, or do you find people do you see free speech on the streets of China?
There's no social credit system. I just got.
Yeah, I say it's bullshit. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah.
Just score is negative 9,000, Jack Ma.
Hey, I got to say something about Jack Ma. Didn't Inevitable China, didn't he get in trouble because he was trying to start up a new financial company and he was wanted it, or he was like way over leveraged what the US would allow. And they shut it down because it was a financial risk to the entire system. I think that was part of the issue, and he got pissed about it. Am I right about that?
Yeah. This whole the Ant group that he had, they had this record IPO in 2020. He was trying to take advantage, and obviously 2020, doing that right. They had a huge consumer credit platform, and they partnered with banks, but they bore really minimal skin in the game. So their tech frame, because they framed it from a tech perspective, right? And so their framing allowed for really huge leverage ratios that are way beyond what you normally would see. And and they did that because they're a fintech giant.
Your mouth's writing checks, your ass can't cash, Mr. Ma.
Pretty much, yeah. And they were just well, look, we're gonna have to put belt to ass and sit you in the corner for a little bit, man, and chill the fuck out, bro. That's what basically he was told. And yeah, look, he's been seen publicly since, right? I think people say he's gone forever. No, it was a momentary spat, and I think he kind of learned his lesson, and it happens. Look, Bill Gates got railroaded, in other words, in the 90s and 2000s for so-called antitrust, but eventually, he was forced to comply, and eventually, gave away the privacy of every single micro or processor to the U.S. government, and eventually just aligned with the NSA and DARPA to sell away everybody's privacy and autonomy in America. So, Bill Gates, he had his. So look, you think people fight, lovers quarrel, right? Billionaires in the government.
We love you, Jack Ma. That's why we teach you lesson. We love you. You love us, right? Oh, Jesus Christ.
Well, you brought up a very interesting point. You said there is no social credit score.
Well, I would say it's bullshit, but Patrick, go ahead. You can.
No, that's it. It's bullshit. I mean, I've lived here for 8 years.
Bullshit.
I live in Chongqing. Been here 8 years.
That's
I'm married to
exactly
a
like
Chinese woman.
that's like exactly like something. That sounds exactly like something somebody would say if they were worried about their social credit score.
I'm just I've asked my wife about it. Have you heard about this? And there's plenty of other expats that live here that have talked about it on X and who have posted. So if you just do a search, you can find plenty of responses that it's not. There's no social credit score system.
That's
and
not true. We just talked about this for an hour and a half, where basically, I mean, I will tell you that for the most part, in terms of transparency, for the regular public, it's not there yet, right? But the fact that the systems and all of the data is oops. Hold on, let me focus on what I'm doing.
All right,
the The systems are in place that they could do it. They have done pilot programs, but a lot of those pilot programs have been shut down. And the pilot programs were focused on, these rich individuals that weren't paying their bills, that weren't paying their corporate loans to the bank, and they were riding on first class on the airline or in the high-speed train. And they just said, no, you can't do it. You can get on the train, you can be in the peasant section, but you're sure as hell not going to be upgrading to first class when you're not paying your bills.
So there is no blacklist?
All right, hold on a second. So tell me if this is true. This is what Grok says, so we can take it with a grain of salt. The most impactful
Remember,
part.
Grok is
That's why I said take
garbage
it for
in, garbage out.
That's why.
Yeah, thank you.
Right. So let's just read this. I want to hear if this is true. If you violate certain laws as an individual, failing to pay court judgments, serious financial defaults, or certain crimes, you can be placed on a dishonest persons blacklist. This can restrict you from buying plane or high-speed train tickets, staying in luxury hotels, or getting certain jobs or loans. Is that much at least true?
That I believe is true, but like I said, they're not prohibited from traveling because they've got to work.
You can walk, Jack Ma. You can always walk to America.
That's
no,
why
but
they
they're
showed
prohibited from getting on airplanes and trains. Over 1 million people, and I read the numbers to you. This is documented by an actual primary source, and I
Okay.
got it in DeepSeek, which is Chinese AI, right?
Well, I'll
the thing
take a
is,
look at it. Go ahead, Nino.
Well, the thing is, they conflate. A lot of times, what they'll do is they'll conflate, like, if one province, for example, or even one city in a province has something that's implemented that's like a diet social credit score, they'll say, well, this many people live in this province, and therefore this many people are affected by this policy. And many of the times those policies have been rolled back substantially. So in the case of like blacklists, again, like these are typically
I think
tied
it's
to like
fucking
Yeah, go
wild
ahead.
that we're in the middle of this artificial intelligence arms race with China. China and the United States is obviously in an artificial intelligence arms race. And I make a fucking X space called Vatican declares war on artificial intelligence. And it's the first time that two pro-Chinese people come in to speak.
Well, that's good. Yeah, well, that's good. I think that maybe I don't know. Maybe that's a positive
Okay.
omen.
Yeah, I come into these
No.
spaces all the time. As far as China and AI, they're going to crush the U.S. They're actually going to crush the U.S. when it comes to AI. And I would say are probably crushing.
Have either of you guys ever done business directly with the CCP?
No.
Even if I did, why would I tell you that?
That's true.
Well, it's because of all the data they're getting from you guys that you swear they're not doing.
Well, look,
You do business with Jack Ma?
because I don't look. I know. Look, everywhere has data, right, Maze? Everywhere,
right.
every
I think-
country.
Listen, I think they're doing the same thing here. They're building towards that globally. In my opinion, I would say it's reasonable to think that at least the United States is very much headed in that direction. What I'm pointing out is that there's lots of documentation, but here's the caveats. The documentation is regional. It's talking about specific regions that have deployed their local level social credit. Now, I think that this is probably something that you might call pilots, Patrick, but it also is like I think it was 1.7 million people were denied any access to airplanes from these areas, which, China's huge, and that's just, I guess a relative.
Yeah, the blacklist. That's from 2013, by the way. That's from 2013
Nope, there's
13
one
till
in
now.
2026.
Till now.
Look, if I'm driving, if you go
No,
to
no. Well, look, it's from
Motherfucker
now.
knows
I
all
just
the
meant like
facts.
it's overall. It's from overall. That's right. I'm not disagreeing with you, Maze. I'm just saying that those numbers are since 2013 till now.
The one I looked at was from 2025 to 2026. I promise you, I'm not making this up because honestly, I believe that there is a lack of transparency unless you hit the borders. Like if you hit the, I don't know, I guess the whatever you violate, then you will fuck around and find out. But if you're not violating, then I guess you're not necessarily interfacing with the restrictions that come with it. But let me send this to you as soon as I get back. I have it pulled up on my computer because I was looking it up when we were in the other space with Patrick. And,
Hey,
and
did
it-
you
if
de-
anything
did
else,
you-
if anything else, it'll at least give you guys a heads up so that you can look into it. These are, I promise, I'm my level of I have a standard for the information.
This is fucking wild.
That's true. That's true. No, Maze, you vet your shit. So, not trying to throw you under the bus or anything, or paint you to be reactionary, but I think since 2013, a lot of times what happens is like repeat cases get logged, and they're like any new edition, right, will compile on top of the old, and a lot of times, like a blacklist, people see that and they go, well, they're fucked, they're going to be like sleeping on the side of the road. In reality, it's kind of like, okay, well, if you owe debt and you're not paying it, and you're in a judiciary where they have any sort of system implemented, then you've got to pay your debt, or these services aren't available. It doesn't mean that like you're literally like a bound, fettered slave, and that you're just like on the shit list forever, right? So blacklist, it sounds scary, but we use Western terminology to describe things that are much less severe than they seem.
I know, but it's not just financial based. And this is the last point I'm gonna make. Oh, sorry, were you about to play a clip?
I will in a second. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say this is that there's 5 different categories in which they are scoring people, and they have different percentage weights for each category. But behavioral, what was it, social behavior and social media, and those were part of it, not like government sentiment and all that shit. And it doesn't make it seem like you guys would be completely locked out of everything. However, being prevented, like those, I don't know, I mean, maybe it sounds polarized, but those are the factual things that
and to be fair, we know that thousands of people every year in the United Kingdom are arrested for things that they post on social media. So I'm not trying to make it sound like this is something that's exclusive to the CCP, and it's an example of why communism or China is so much more unjust than the West or the United States of America. I mean, we do a lot of the same shit that we criticize China of, but I don't know, it just seems so fucking severe. It reminds me of this.
How are you, G.I. Joe? It seems to me that most of you are poorly informed about the going of the war, to say nothing about a correct explanation of your presence over here. Nothing is more confused than to be ordered into a war to die or to be maimed for life without the faintest idea of what's going on.
Yeah, you get it. Anyway, Bacchus, this is probably an opportunity for us to get into some more of these clips, because I'm looking through these clips and there's some good ones on here. We haven't even touched on it. I want to keep taking speakers. I just want to make sure that we cover some of the stuff that we wanted to talk about. What do you think, Bacchus?
I had this is the last question pertaining China. So
Okay.
over here we call it Gen Z rot, where the prices are getting so inflated you're never going to afford a home and successfully reproduce. In China, I've seen laying flat trending. Do you see that young people in China, like the majority of new college graduates, they're lying flat, or they're barely putting in any effort into work?
You should be able to unmute yourself now.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Yeah. Well, go.
No, go. You go.
Well, I would say, look, there's been a few difficulties with there've been a little bit of difficulties with some Gen Z or the equivalent of that being able to find work. There's a ton of competition, and I think new industries and sectors are being opened up. And one thing that a court passed, for example, was this restriction on being able to just terminate people and replace them with AI. That was a court case that took place like about 2 or 3 weeks ago. That decision took place. But look, there are significant gender issues with in terms of like starting families and whatnot that do exist as well. I think because you were referring to like the whole Gen Z rot and lying flat and like nobody reproducing. Yeah, the population issue has been a concern. But like there's also quite a bit of zero-sum competition where everyone really works harder, and some people feel like they aren't seeing the returns that exist. And I think currently where it is in terms of owning property. Yeah, it's many people are able to own property in China. It's one of the easier things that you can do. Believe it or not, like it's like we have a huge percentage of home ownership in China as it is, but youth unemployment, and I think they go by like 15 to 25 or whatever. That kind of like went down actually in April from March, and the peak of the youth unemployment was around like 2023, where it was in the 20s in terms of percentage. So youth unemployment has dropped, and I think like it's going to continue to drop because there have been measures taken specifically to produce more, or rather to produce more jobs for younger people. So currently, honestly, I think the thing is that's affecting Gen Z the most is going to be the gender war. To be honest, that's what I always hear about and see, at least when I look on Douyin and like wherever
But in
else.
China, you can own your home, but you can't technically own the land that it's
It's
on.
like a
Is that
90-year
correct?
lease or something. You don't
Well,
technically
in America,
own it,
you
right?
can't either.
Why? Because the property tax.
Well, I'll be clear. The you said the 90 years. So the lease it is renewable. It's always renewable, and no one has ever reached that limit in their life so far. Technically, because the PRC itself is from 1949. So, and even then, it is almost like there's zero chance that like you just get denied renewal, right? That's just kind of like it's in the system to where if you reach that 75 or 90-year period, you do get to renew and keep your house. But
And it's the same
you
in
also don't
England,
own.
and it's the same in Dubai.
Yeah. And by the way, like you don't own mineral rights. I don't believe you own that, but mineral rights are pretty rare in general, right? So underneath your property, you're not gonna have much. And yeah, property taxes certainly have priced many people out all over the world, but there are no property taxes in China. We don't have property tax whatsoever.
Wow.
I guess the question I was asking is, if I go get boba tea, am I going to get a low effort boba tea that's mostly boba balls and not enough liquid?
Yeah,
Well, that's the hard part. You'll get
Boba
high
balls are the
effort.
shit. What are you talking
It's effort
about?
maxed over here.
Okay. So
Yeah,
I'm going to
Luckin
get
coffee?
mostly tea.
You ever
and
gotten
not
a
lot of-
blowjob in Shanghai? That boba tea ratio really helps with the muscle development.
I have no fucking idea what you're talking about.
Bro, strawberry milk swirl boba is the best thing I've ever had in my life. I absolutely love it.
I like Boba Fett better.
Yeah, but did you get that in China?
No, bro,
Maze?
I got
Yeah,
some
they
milk
effort
boba.
maxed it. And if anything, yeah.
All right. That answers
Hey,
my
can I just say
questions.
one thing? Can I just say one thing about the whole laying down and the unemployment?
You say whatever you want, bro. It's America.
Okay, I appreciate it. So, the numbers are around like 23, 24%. Actually, it's down from what it was about 6 months ago. But being unemployed as a young adult.
By the way, Patrick, you mean
not,
general unemployment or youth unemployment?
I'm talking about youth unemployment. So, because I think the general unemployment's even lower than what youth unemployment is, but you probably know those numbers better than I would. But what I was going to say was being unemployed in China is completely different than it is in the U.S. because the families they're very compartmentalized, and it's family first. So if one of your children or your even an uncle or an aunt are suffering financially, then the family pitches in. Like we had a family member that my wife's uncle's son was getting married, and they wanted to buy him a house. And so we chipped in a little bit of money. The entire family did. And now they live in a nice, I think, a 3-bedroom house up in Liaoning, which is northeast China. But the children that are unemployed, more than likely, they're with mom and dad. And they're looking for a job. Maybe some of them are complacent and enjoying the free ride their parents are giving them. But for the most part, they're probably looking for a job, but they're not going without. Whereas in the U.S., like when I was unemployed, I used to work for AIG. I was in the institutional, I was in capital markets, and I got laid off. And I got a little severance package, and I was making my payment on the house, and it just kept going. I couldn't find anything, and I bled it out as long as I could because I didn't want to ask family for help. And I think there's that kind of independent, I want to do it myself attitude in the U.S., whereas here in China, family's not afraid to ask for money. So they're not in dire straits. More than likely, they're with mom or dad, maybe even an uncle or whatever. So I just wanted to share that with you.
It's very interesting. Cultural differences are making up the shortfalls.
No, exactly.
What's the clips you wanted to get into, Chase?
I don't care. I just see there's some interesting shit here, man. I got some Elon Musk talking about the future of AI. Some of these clips are older, so they might be redundant or stuff that the audience has already heard.
Hey, Chase, before you play that, I just had a question for Inevitable.
Yeah, what's up? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I really dig this conversation, too. Inevitable, you there, buddy?
We
Hey,
are
what's up, man?
inevitable.
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 Yo, is anything like the cancel culture or like a woman's movement at all happening out there like it is in America?
4B, yeah, 4B. It's so fucking gay, dude.
Dude,
Fuck.
that's Korean too.
Like,
You got infected with that?
Yeah, big time. Yeah, the chicks. Yeah, well, and look, it's fine, right? But the gender wars, there was this big like gender war bullshit in some university. I forgot where, but it was like trending over the weekend where like some I guess I don't know. Long story short, some professor kind of like showed preferential towards the female students, as opposed to like the male students, and they kind of like, well, fuck that. We're not gonna sit in the lunch hall with them. It was some crazy like little viral to do. Yeah, there's the whole gender war thing happening in China for sure.
Do you think that all? Do you think that at all is stirred up by propaganda? Like they want us to be divided. Like, do you feel that in China?
Well, you know, I think
external powers upon you.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm just not like I don't really look. I'm anti-feminism, so I'm not. So the 4B feminism movement certainly spreads, and there's look. People say, well, China's so repressive and locked down, and you know, it's what the CCP wants you to think. And it's like, well, dude, literal social movements are crossing over the strait, and this is an example. Now, I thankfully, the party has kind of like tried to promote or try to dissuade, if you will, television and film producers from the whole genre. I forgot what the genre is called, but it's like where they like a poor young girl meets a rich man, and he frees her from her, you know, impoverished life, and loves her and cherishes her, and he's perfect and he's everything. And it's kind of like it has actually really warped like you know, the perception of like young women here. But you know, look, guys, there are some weird, resentful, you know, men as well, young men who are kind of like the opposite side of that scale. But no, feminism is a cancer. And unfortunately, many of the leaders in the party, I just don't think they see it. I don't think they see, I really don't think they see like the rot that feminism is. And they're so like, there's this chivalry that they think is kind of, and I get it, right? It's from good intentions, right? But
it's from
you gotta think of their
K-dramas.
age. Yeah, well, yeah, the K-dramas, yeah. And then the chivalry in the party is to where like I'm sure like many people in political and high levels of social influence are kind of just like older men who think it's the 1960s again, and that, you know, just they give the antiquated advice. So yeah, that's kind of like what's happening.
But inevitable, what you're talking about is the most popular genre in China, which is like the girl meets man, doesn't realize that man was only in a mechanic outfit because he was working on his car. But he's actually secretly a billionaire, and now she's gonna find out and save her whole village. Like that is the number one genre in China.
That's a fucking crazy genre, dude.
Yeah.
Get back on that walk.
Yeah, it's mind fucking them, dude. It's mind fucking everyone. But you know, I don't know. I think things will turn around. I just, you know, I don't know. I haven't really figured out the solution to that just yet, to be honest. But clearly, it's a problem because we have the low. By the way, we had the lowest fertility rate since 1776 last year.
Whoa.
Yo,
Yeah.
I feel like that cancel culture thing has died down quite a bit for the past like 4 years. I don't know what changed it.
In America or China?
In America. So like currently the feminist movement's dying in America, but it was strong during the Biden administration.
Bro,
Hey, and there's
it's been
no
wrong for a long time.
wokey bunch stuff going on here too.
But you
That's
know
true.
what, guys? I think like I'm curious, and this is an honest question. Like, if you look at the restrictions that were made, like for having children, how the hell did you guys grow your population times 3? And the only reason I'm asking is because I mean, is it because y'all moved people in? I mean, because it's impossible mathematically. Anyway, we don't have to answer that. I know you got more clips, Bak, but that's
What do you mean in the 60s?
I'm talking about in China, like because
The
they're
one child
in the
policy
past-
until what, 2016?
Yep.
15.
15?
And this was for 50 for 50 years. You guys have 2.5 times your population, and so mathematically, like it's just like in order for there to just be an equal ground, you would need 2, right? One to replace the mom and one to replace the dad. So if you only had one, how the hell did you guys grow times 3?
Yeah, a lot of people think that the Chinese population's a lie.
The official numbers I think are 1.2 billion. Correct me if I'm wrong on what the population of China is, but I believe
1.4.
Okay, 1.4. I believe when the one-child policy was instituted, there was like 600 million or 700 million people in China. So I don't understand.
When I took sociology in college, it was 1.9, and then it went up to 2.1 billion people. Like, so those numbers were fucking false, right?
I don't think 2.1. I don't know about that. But look, in terms of like the increase, I don't think it was ever like 3x, but I do know like a huge factor was like a shitload of kids were being had. I'm talking about like maybe 6 or 7 kids per woman were had in the 60s,
Sluts.
the 50s through the 60s. Well, for their husbands, that's the way it should be, right? And so that's like literally the overall. The crude birth rate was probably like, man, like
Yeah, but
40 or 50 births per 1,000 people. So it was huge. And in the 70s took off even further. So, that's kind of why that policy was implemented in the first place, right? Because of shit was getting crazy. And look, China has a long history, by the way, because I know people like to rag the one-child policy. And I agree it was a mistake in hindsight, but it was well-intentioned. And it goes from a long history of famine and production not match or population not matching food and the ability to sustain. And by famine, I mean like in previous like dynasties, imperial dynasties, there were significant famines that have really traumatized and wrought China in the past. Despite China being such an agricultural powerhouse for 2,000 years, there were times where, due to natural disasters, that standard couldn't be upheld. So it's always been something on the mind of leadership, even prior to the establishment of the People's Republic of China. There's always been high-level thinking of, well, do we have too many people? Are we overwhelming our natural resources?
You're not answering the question because it's like I have the same question about the Jewish population, to be honest, because Hasidic Jews have like 7 kids, but the population has been 15 million for like 50 years. And then the same thing with China is they're only supposed to have 1 kid, but their population doubled. Like it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't add up.
Well, no, the population almost doubled, but that was in the 50s and 60s. That was way before the one-child policy.
Yeah, the population though, when the one-child policy was actually implemented, was in like the 900 millions, according to what I'm looking up.
Yeah, and there should have been a decrease if you only have 1 child.
Yeah,
between
but
two
that wasn't implemented immediately, right? Like it wasn't like an
I'm
off
talking
and on.
about
It could never be, right?
it was announced far before 1980 on a trial basis, but it was fully implemented in 1980.
Hey, can I say this? One of their policy also allowed, like if you, let's say you accidentally had another child, you just pay a fine. So there were people that were like, I dated a girl from Beijing before I got married, and she had a sister, and they were born during that period. And all the dad did was just pay a small fine, and they were fine. So it's not like they're rounding people up and arresting them. So there was still some increase despite the policy that was in place at the time.
I'm going to be honest though, Patrick. Go.
No, I was just saying 2.5 times. I think that maybe I was going to look into this. I just haven't had bandwidth, but because I'm like, is this a conspiracy? Like, is it kind of y'all know me. But I think that there must have either been people that moved in, like it couldn't have been, or mathematically it's impossible.
Well, I think they're lying. I think that the CCP is lying about the actual population.
So why would the West uphold the lies
and
though? When you think about it, why would the West? Why would America? Why would the World Bank? Why would all of these major institutions corroborate such a lie?
I think for the same reason that the West lied about the Cold War.
Dick measuring contest.
Well, yeah, you have to inflate the extent to which an enemy is actually an enemy in order to justify so many domestic policies, militarization, things like that.
So it's true for India, but it's a lie for China, and the reason for inflating China's numbers are not the same for adhering to India's numbers, right? Like, India didn't have that, but my point is that India has a huge population as well, and the West corroborates that using the same matters and the same means that they corroborate China's numbers, right?
But India didn't have a one-child policy.
Same. To replace each parent, you'd have to have 2 kids. So I'm just saying for 50 years, that's like a generation. You would think it would go down. And I'm not like, if it wasn't for that one-child policy, I wouldn't even really think to question it. I remember, I don't know. It's just one of those things that's like, whoa, That seems interesting. I mean, but hell, if China, if
Quite a few, almost basically didn't really even apply. Like even in Tibet, for example, there was no policy there whatsoever. And really
Tibet,
the countryside in China, yeah, in the countryside, you're funny, man. In the countryside, I lost my train of thought.
Sorry, dude. Hey, hold on for a second. I want to play this clip because this is the clip that got me started on this rabbit hole. All right, what do you think of that?
Hey, I got to say this.
On so many levels.
Wow.
That's Lee. I forget her channel name, but I've watched a lot of her stuff, and she is. You got to have a decoder ring most of the time to understand what she's actually saying
because of her accent.
Really, not her accent. It's just how vague she can be. Here, she's obviously giving more specific numbers. She said around 500,000. Because of her background and what she has presented in the past in her channel, I'd have to disagree with what she.
Yeah, I don't know anything about her.
She's mathematically wrong.
Yeah, I don't know anything about her. She could be mathematically wrong. I'm not saying that the number is actually 500 million. I'm just saying that I'm skeptical that it's 1.4 billion. And just from a question of like incentives, and you guys can correct me if this is wrong, but local governments receive massive fiscal transfers from Beijing based on population size, according to the research that I'm doing right now, like as we speak. Higher numbers equals more money, so there's incentive for local government officials to exaggerate the population in their various geographic districts. The other thing that comes up is, an incentive to exaggerate the population size is to downplay catastrophic and long-term damage of the one-child policy, even potentially the Great Leap Forward. National prestige and power, a larger population makes China look stronger militarily, economically, geopolitically. And as far as bureaucratic incentives are concerned, officials are rewarded for meeting targets. Inflating numbers has been common for decades. We know that was a component of why the Great Leap Forward was the Great Leap Forward, not because of population exaggeration, but because of crop yield exaggerations, right? So I don't know. I'm just skeptical that it's really 1.4. I don't think it's 500 million, but I don't think it's the number that's.
No, I'd agree with you. I don't think it's 1.4. I don't think it's 1.4. Maybe like 1.1, 1.2. But when you live in a city like I do, so the city I live in, population's bigger than the state of Texas. We're at like 34
Where are you in,
million
Patrick,
people.
again?
I'm in Chongqing.
Oh God. Yeah. Dude, if any of you guys ever step into Chongqing, you will tell yourselves there are 1.4 billion people in this fucking country. That's exactly the first thing you would say if you ever deal with the traffic. But go ahead, Patrick. Sorry.
No, and if you travel during Chinese New Year, the West says it's the largest mass migration that happens. It's not, not a bunch of animals. It's a bunch of people going back to visit mom and dad in their hometown or going on vacation. And
you can see it from space. You can see the traffic patterns from space.
It's crazy. When I go out on Chinese New Year, we usually go to Hainan, which is the island. It's kind of like the Hawaii of the U.S. It's right off the coast. Beautiful island. We go there, but we get there before the crowd comes in, and we get there before the crowd leaves. We've kind of figured out how to time it because you don't want to get caught in the airport, in the train station with hundreds of thousands of people. And if you come into the Chongqing airport, it's like, I can't even explain how big it is.
I hear that airport has its ups and downs.
I've never had any problems with it. It's always been, we've gone through security super quick. Just since security lines, they have probably 100 booths to be able to have the capacity to deal with all the people that go through there on, when
they got to check if everybody's on the dishonest persons list.
Well, they want to make sure they don't sit in first class. They like to put it back in the peasant seats.
By the way, I spammed you, so go check your DMs, Patrick.
Me?
Guys,
okay, I will.
By the way,
yeah.
So what's funny about that lady in that clip is that she says, well, you would have to have 4.5 to 6 children per woman, if you wanted to have such growth. She says it as if that's not exactly what happened. And she says it as if that's not exactly what China has reported and what the World Bank will literally tell
I understand,
you
but I understand what you're saying, but one of the things you mentioned is that all the children that were born in the 50s and 60s, but the Great Leap Forward was it between 58 and 62?
Roughly, yeah.
Estimates of like 50 million
that was
deaths.
earlier. It was earlier, but go ahead. It was earlier, but yeah, go ahead.
Are you sure?
No, you're right. Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. So if 50 to 60 million people died during the Great Leap Forward, doesn't that kind of counterbalance the increased birth rate in the 50s and 60s?
So I would say, for one, I wouldn't say it's that many people, but
Okay.
and we can. It's a whole nother topic, but the main thing is that in the 50s and 60s, especially the post recovery from the Great, because the Great Leap Forward did kill. There were a lot of people who died, right, as a result, specifically, a famine. But the recovery following the Great Leap Forward was like to the point where there was a peak of around like 7 to 8 children per woman, and this was, I think, in the mid 60s. And I'll have to double check that, but there
Yeah,
were
so the Great
literally
Leap
7
Forward
to 8
was
per
the
woman.
most intense years for the Great
Yeah.
Leap Forward were 1958 to 1960, but it was the 4 to 5 years leading up to 60. So yeah, there could have been a massive population surge in the 1960s.
There was it was literally 7 to 8 children per woman in the mid 60s, and then there was another boom in the 70s as well. But I would say even by 19, it was a slight decline too, gradually, but in the 70s, even then there was 5.7, and that was considered a decline. I think 1970 literally had 5.7 per woman. I remember that specifically because I remember commenting to myself and saying, okay, the World Bank is saying that this is a decline, right? But a decline is still easily sustaining the figures that she's saying are so impossible, right? And so the last thing I will say, I think it was Chase who mentioned earlier, yeah, the US could try to build up this population for purposes of rallying this anti-China Red Scare sort of apparatus within, right? And I agree to some extent that that is something that the U.S. wants, right? It's a Red Scare anti-China apparatus,
exactly.
China hawks. However, why would China not again, think about it like this. Is the solution to would China truly change its core fundamentals just for the purpose of managing the perception of US citizens? Would China truly say, hey, stop having children. Hey guys, stop fucking. Okay? No more, for the purposes of
No, I'm not
owning the US, owning the sticking it to the libs.
I think I may have inadvertently implied that I was suggesting that China was exaggerating its population numbers as part of like a international intimidation technique. It seems to me more likely that the inflated numbers are locals misreporting or exaggerating the number of people in their districts so they can get increased federal funding from the CCP.
Well, that does
with that.
happen in the past. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Because and that was a problem. That's something that was one of. I mean, we can speak to Xi Jinping's anti-corruption campaign because that there have been problems like that. So I think we can.
Is there anything that you would
say?
Is there anything you would say about Xi Jinping, his administration, or his policies that you've disagreed with?
I hope that they crack down on the awful traffic in China, like in terms of literally, we need to crack down on the bad driving that happens.
Oh, good luck with
And
that.
I don't know if that's Xi
Yeah.
Jinping's responsibility. I know it's not, right. That's probably too. It's like blaming the U.S. president for
AI.
gas
Well,
pricing.
just-
Gas prices.
But if you were to ask me, like, I'm somebody who voted for Trump and supported him heavily. If you were to ask me if I had any criticism of Donald Trump, I would tell you something like, it's bullshit that we're still in the war in Ukraine. He said that he was going to end it. I voted for him because he said no new wars and bragged about no new wars, and now we're bombing Iran. What the fuck? Seems like he's hyper-leveraged by Israel, maybe even compromised. Obviously, everybody that he's picked in his leadership and his cabinet, or a large percentage of them, have been fucking terrible, from Pam Bondi to Kash Patel. The government's still totally corrupt. He's covering up for the Epstein files and pedophilia in a massive way. The dollar seems to be collapsing. Now all of a sudden we're, talking about wars to defend Taiwan and Cuba and Ukraine and Israel. I mean, those are like real fucking things. And I just asked you if there's any one thing you could criticize Xi Jinping for, and the thing that you said was like this vanilla. The traffic's really bad in some of the cities.
Oh, you say it's vanilla,
hey,
but you don't have to deal with it personally.
No, but
Yeah.
we can agree that
get
you
it.
don't have freedom of speech in China like we do
Right.
in
The
the United
reason I
States,
asked you the
correct?
question
We
is
do not
'cause
have freedom of speech in the United States. No, you don't.
That's true.
But
That's
go
true.
ahead.
That's true. We don't. We do, but we don't. Not practically.
Hey.
But on paper, we do. But the reason I asked you is like, I don't know you, dude. I'm not trying to be rude or imply that you're fucking working for the CCP or an operative or whatever. But in trying to get a feel for who you are and what your positions are, and I don't know, just what
like,
the
it's
fuck
not
is,
a utopia.
What the fuck is going on? Like, I asked you,
Hey.
like the fact that you didn't really give like a real criticism of Xi, like is an
Can I give
indicator.
one?
It's not. Yes, 1 second. It's an indicator,
Okay.
but it's not proof. I admit, it's just an indicator to me that you seem like you're kind of compromised.
Yeah, well, look, I'll pass it to you, Patrick. But the thing I'll say is, like, I am so happy under Xi Jinping. I am here by choice. If I didn't like it, I have easy access. Trust me, to not be here. I literally consider Xi Jinping to be. It's like Xi Jinping to me. I kind of always compared him mentally to, like, if you had JFK, except serve out his full term, and like just like literally a guy. No, I'm telling you. Xi Jinping to me is literally like the ideal leader for China. The anti-corruption, the dedication to like economic prosperity, the dedication to the foreign policy. I love the foreign policy. I love the decisions made to increase the PLA. I love the determination he has to reunify Taiwan. There's so many things I'm freaking happy about. My stances on the Middle East and Iran and the decisions China has made with the Belt and Road Initiative. So many things that have literally been like broadcast. The continual 5% growth every single year of GDP. The transparent 5-year plans that come to fruition every time. Trump literally tells you he's going to do one thing, and then you get the inversion of it. Xi Jinping tells you that, hey, we're going to grow this much and we're going to invest this much into this part of our population. And then you have it happen. It comes to fruition. It's like a dream come true in many ways. So yeah, like, excuse me if maybe the thing that I'm worried about here is that I don't die in a fucking car wreck. yeah, that's my criticism because that directly affects me. Yeah, but go ahead, Patrick. I know Patrick wanted to go.
The comparison to JFK is wild, though.
Fucking
Let me
crazy.
just
I'm
say
sure
this,
it is
though,
you.
But look, guys, I've never heard him not sound like he's smiling when he talks. Have you guys, like, the whole time he's up here, did it not sound like he's smiling?
Blink twice if you need help.
I am, yeah.
Literally, that's exactly what I was thinking. Thank you.
No, he does. He seems incredibly happy.
Go ahead.
Oh, no worries, no worries. So I could put 2 complaints in. The first complaint is, and I will say that he's already acknowledged this, but so my wife and I, we have 2 children, a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old, and the amount of pressure that's on children to be successful and to be the highest performing students in class.
Doctor, lawyer, doctor, lawyer.
It's unreal. It's unreal. I mean, my 13-year-old, he's had 2 breakdowns where he was just literally unconsolable. I mean, you could not keep him from crying, and he was crying for like an hour because there's so much pressure. And he's not the only child. There's other children that go through that. But he's the equivalent of what you would going to medical school. It's insane. Like last night, I was helping him with English, and it was only, I decided 15, 20 minutes a day is the max that I'll do with him because math and his Chinese takes up most of his time. But he didn't go to bed till like 11:30, 11:45 last night. Sometimes it's 12:30. And that's when he gets home, he sits down, chills for a bit, has his dinner, and then he studies from, 8:30 on, 3 or 4 hours every single night. And then he's studying at school, and they have a study class after his classes. It's insane. There's too much pressure on them. Now, would I move back to the U.S. because it's so much pressure on them? No, because I don't want to deal with the wokey bunch at school. I don't want to, the expense, and I don't want to deal with the drug issues. I have another son that went through a little phase where I just thought he was going to be dead on the street. I couldn't control who he was going out. Whereas here, they're so focused on studying. They don't have time to get in trouble. First of all, they don't have time. They don't know where they could even get, a bag of pot or some type of drugs because the punishment is severe and they know it.
That was like a disguised perk. That's what you just did. You were like, it's so, because you're saying like they're just so.
The kids are
busy
so
that,
well behaved here that my kid doesn't feel perfect enough.
No, they just the pressure to, because if you don't score high enough and you can't get into high school, then you're kicked out into the.
What do you think about the fact that Xi Jinping took over control of Hong Kong before he was?
Love it. I'm so happy for that.
Because I'm a Christian and I go to church quite often. I mean, I see stuff on X all the time that says there's no Christianity. It's not allowed. If you look at the PRC Constitution, Article 36, it's very specific that the government doesn't interfere with that. Now, do you have to be registered as a church? Yes, you have to be registered, because they had a problem with pastors fleecing the congregation. So they had to stop it. And two, they don't want foreign influence, religious influence coming in. And
like the 1800s.
Can you be any denomination of Christian in China, or are there specific ones?
I've seen Baptist, seen Protestant. I've seen there's some evangelicals. They're smaller churches, but there's like I bought a new International Version Bible at the church that I go to. In fact, I posted. My wife and I went to church on Easter. It was Easter weekend. It was like on a Friday or Thursday, and they had like a 2:00 service. So we went in there, and it looks like a Baptist church you would see in the U.S.
But why is there an underground? Why is there an underground church then? Because I know you have to register, and I was reading that they were even revising and editing the Bible and giving a CCP Diet Coke version of the Bible, which is why the underground church is growing.
No, because the Bible that I have, I've looked through it, and there's no doctrinal change. The only change that I've seen in the like the Bible that I have is, when Jesus speaks, it's in red. It's all black. It's just all black. It's not red. That's the only change that I've seen. There's no mention of Mao. There's no mention of President Xi. I've even heard
Mao. Watch his mouths.
I've even heard people going into churches are saying that if you go into a church that there's a cross and that there's a picture of Mao. And Article 37 specifically says that kind of shit can't happen. They don't get involved. Now, if you want to fleece the congregation, then you're going to get in trouble.
So there is no sanitization of religion?
Not that I've seen. I mean, maybe if on the Muslim mosque, I know a lot of mosques are being rebuilt to look more Chinese as opposed to looking, your typical, what are those big, tall structures they build? Minarets?
Well, that's kind of okay, but overall, you don't see any kind of persecution of religion, like the way that they.
No, I don't.
I feel like I think the Western, like Chase, Bak. Do you guys think that we just been lied to like crazy, or do you think
for sure we've been lied to?
That's okay, Josie. How are you?
Good, you.
And let me just tell everybody, repost the space, okay? It's 12:25 a.m. here on the East Coast. I mean, we definitely went way down the rabbit hole on the China discussion, which I appreciate Bak having some patience considering he's taken so much time to cut out these amazing clips for us to discuss. But repost the space, and also, if you look in the nest, you can watch them in the studio as they are streaming. And if you hit Chase's profile, you'll see where they have started up their website, and it's chasegeiser.com. You can go there, you can register, you can see all their content there. And since you don't see Bak on the stage, you're going to have to go to Chase's profile, and you'll see his profile up in his bio. So click that and follow. They're doing spaces regularly, lots of content, great discussion, well-rounded, obviously, right? So make sure you guys are doing that. And with that being said, I just wanted to see, Bak, if you wanted to go to the next video or what you got for us. I don't know if you want to continue this, but back over to you guys.
Thank you so much for that. Do I even have any more clips? Because now I want to figure out if we're being honeypotted.
Yeah, with China, the whole China conversation.
There's some serious China glazing going on, and I just don't agree that. I know this from my research. There's departments. This United Front Work Department, which the CCP even announced it itself. There will be a church registry. You're not going to go against the CCP doctrine, and they're so homogenous that they're really worried about any outside influence. And I know that they control the Muslims, they control the Jewish infiltration, but that would be inconsistent that they wouldn't control the Vatican. What's your thoughts on the new American Pope and him going against AI?
Well, to be honest, I think I was skeptical at first because I don't have a high opinion of the Catholic Church, but I understand they've got some pretty instrumental history. But as far as the current Pope going against AI, well, I think I saw something about how it's against war, AI used for war, and certainly with the way certain stuff like not Palantir, but Lavender, and Palantir too, but Lavender has been used to kill Palestinians and hunt down people in war. I definitely respect where that take is coming from, and hopefully maybe he speaks out more, because AI has not been used more anywhere else for the purposes of killing people than in Gaza, right? And so it'd be good to see some guardrails, but I don't know how successful he will be, to be honest. And by the way, Anthropic,
So
they had
apparently
that
the
with
Pope,
the American government. Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but apparently the Pope does not have full independent authority to appoint bishops in China. So the current situation as of 2026, under the Vatican-China Provisional Agreement signed in 2018 and most recently renewed in October of 2024 for 4 years until 2028, the process works like this. China proposes candidates for bishop. The Pope has veto power. He can reject candidates he finds unacceptable. The Pope then formally appoints those who are approved. In theory, this gives the Pope final say. In practice, China holds most of the real power because the Chinese government, via the Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association, controls the initial selection process. The Vatican has never publicly used its veto, even when China violated the agreement by unilaterally appointing bishops in Shanghai from 2022 to 2023. The Pope has repeatedly accepted bishops installed by China after the fact to preserve the deal. So, I mean, fuck, man. If the Pope can't appoint bishops of his own church without the CCP's approval, I mean, that's massive religious regulation, in my opinion.
Well, I think I can understand if you think the Pope is infallible, but
I don't believe the Pope is infallible. I'm just using it as an example of a religion that believes that, the Pope.
We want to hear bad stuff about China.
And just real quick, if you want to hear bad stuff about China, let me just correct you inevitable right here. You say that nobody has used AI more to kill people more than Lavender Palantir, actually. You would have to define killing, because I think that China likes to use the term disappearing out of nowhere and never to be seen again.
Are you trolling right now? You got to be trolling.
Josie,
No,
you're
that's actually
funny.
true. No, that's actually true. Sorry. The image is image detection, facial recognition on cameras considered artificial intelligence?
It's not being used to hunt people down and kill them.
Well,
No.
it's certainly used to recognize people and catch them if they do bad stuff. No.
Yeah. Well, in part.
Okay.
But
Okay.
I don't know. We're talking about like war, and Anthropic denied deal with
war,
the U.S.
sure.
government,
Okay,
right?
if you wanna
They had a
frame it like
fallout.
that. If you
But
want to
that's what
frame
the
it like
Pope.
that.
That's what the Pope is talking about, like using AI in war. I thought that was the basis to.
No, it's more involved
was-
than that, dude. Today he came out and he basically said that he did use the term disarmed, which does imply military implications specifically. But a few weeks ago or a few months ago, he banned all priests from using any LLMs or AI to write their homilies. Like, he's got a more antagonistic view toward artificial intelligence than simply its use in the context of a military conflict.
Well, I'd like to kind of, one thing that I think maybe would help inform the disposition with the, party, or at least the government in China towards, Catholicism specifically, is there is a long and pretty sordid history, that deals back to the Jesuits and the Jesuit missionaries.
Oh, where's our boy? Where's Alex from Michigan, bro?
Well,
here's requesting to speak. Hold on.
Okay.
Alex, tell us about the
Now's
fucking
your
Jesuits.
chance to fucking shine,
Let's
Alex.
cook, Alex.
There's a relationship with the Jesuit missionaries and Matteo Ricci, who I think was a great man. And the Jesuit missionaries kind of had a huge role in the 1600s of converting Chinese, especially the elites, to Catholicism, if you will, and Christianity. But they, a lot of them, sure, I'm almost done. Well, they a lot of them ran, like, if you will, accommodations where they would incorporate and honor ancestor veneration and, the honoring of, say, like Confucius and other means of traditional Chinese terms, and incorporate it into Catholic doctrine, right? But then it got back to the Vatican, and the Pope was obviously like mortified by the changing and the altering of, if you will, scripture and doctrine, right, to fit Chinese customs. And so there was a decree by one of the popes at that time in the early 1700s, that sided against the Jesuits for doing this. And one of the emperors, Kangxi Emperor, he had a huge falling out with the Pope, because the Pope basically said that like Chinese customs cannot be honored and they should be dispelled. And he issued this official papal decree. The Pope that is at that time, I think it was like Pope Clement something, the 10th or whatever. And that banned Chinese Catholics from practicing ancestor worship and other Chinese terms and customs, like using Tian, for example, which was one of the Chinese names for God. And so the Kangxi Emperor had like this huge response and just cussed the Pope out basically, and banned Christian missions for a while. A few decades, I think, even after his death, they were still banned, and that went down for quite a bit. And so since then, I'm going to be honest. Since then, the relationship with Chinese authority and Central Chinese authority and the Catholic Church authority has had sort of like a stance of, not just outright derision, if you will, but it's been a bit more of a like, look, we'll keep you at arm's length, right? I think that's kind of the disposition. And so it does imply that, look, you're not going to come in and, try to like just completely change the way that we do things here. You're not going to come in and use these subversive Western assets, even if you are the Pope, because the security and the prosperity of our people is paramount. It's paramount to any religion, paramount to any belief system, culture, staple, or custom. And I respect that. I do, especially since I'm not Catholic. So that helps too.
Yeah, I mean, so the fundamental philosophy is that national security supersedes individual rights.
I think every country in the world has that fundamentally like ingrained into the way that they are structured, right?
I'm not trying to imply that it's a unique criticism of China. I'm often frustrated with our own government here in the United States for using national security as an excuse to violate individual rights. Famously, of course, with the Patriot Act and the illegal espionage of American citizens as a result of the war on terror and 9/11. Like, I'm not trying to say China only does that, but that seems to be an explicit example of, even we don't give a shit if our citizens believe in the infallibility of the Pope, because we see that as a national security threat. So fuck their freedom of religion rights.
Well, there's been compromise made for that, but you know what, Chase? I think you are being fair, as fair as you can in terms of your assessment. And you don't come off as someone who's like necessarily hostile. I think I understand you might have.
I'm not trying to be a dick to you. Like, I really hate to like imply or accuse you of anything without knowing you, but like. Shit, man. I mean, that's why I asked the questions.
I get it. Like, there's going to be some ontological shock too, right? It's not. I don't even expect you to believe everything I say, and I know you're one to independently verify pretty much anything that you come across. So I respect that. Go ahead.
He hates Iranians too. We're in the same boat here, inevitable. No, just kidding, Chase. Hey, but guys, just FYI, breaking news: the war has restarted. There have been attacks. Iran basically just admitted just announced that they attacked the U.S. Military base in Kuwait. And they said that it was in response to the early morning attack that was done by the airport. And so it's pretty much kicked off again. And so I don't know. I thought we were getting close, but maybe I was a fool.
They're never going to let us bust. This war is just going to be the biggest gooning session of all time.
It's all for the markets, man. They want to leverage the market down, but I'm telling you, it's all revolves around the money markets.
100%.
Wait, so Taco Tuesday took a turn. Wait, no, today's Wednesday.
Today's Wednesday, Maze.
It's Wednesday now, right? Wait, hold up.
It's Walk Wednesdays, baby.
Don't you think the war will just continue and just I don't know, just get larger, expand to other countries now at this point? I don't know what to think.
No, that's what we were covering the whole beginning of the episode. I was covering the economic loss with the Taiwan Straits, and then that leads straight into blocking the Strait of Malacca. And then we're going into war with Cuba, and Hegseth was saying he's going to the war with the cartels, which means basically a forever war all throughout South America, which means Colombia, obviously further into Venezuela, but we have a foothold there, Mexico, because they're not in charge, it's the cartels. So any cartel-led nation in South America, Taiwan most likely, because China's never going to give up on that. They think it's a rogue province. Ukraine expanding. So yeah, just go to Aldi's and get some canned beans and some rice, and
I still got a lot of storable food from the old Alex Jones sponsors.
Look,
Hell
folks,
yeah.
this stuff is actually delicious.
This stuff
He
tastes
takes like 2 bites. He's like,
I had the mac and cheese yesterday. I had to take a nap. It's so good.
It tastes like cardboard, but you'll live another day.
I was thinking about eating my neighbors, but instead I was just
Alex had his hand raised. Should we call him
Alex
out?
from Michigan? Yeah.
Yeah, he's been waiting.
Go ahead,
I
Professor.
feel bad.
The Jesuits in China and the Catholic Church.
Hey, how's it going, you guys?
Good.
Hey.
Yeah, so Matteo Ricci was a wicked sinner who was the first sinner allowed into China, and he was a Jesuit priest who infiltrated her. And the Manchu dynasty actually kicked the Jesuits out, just like the Tokugawa shogun in Japan kicked the Jesuits out for trying to overthrow the emperor. And so the Vatican actually has a picture of Mao Zedong dressed as a Jesuit priest.
What?
The Vatican, yeah, look it up. The Vatican has a picture of Mao dressed as a priest.
Will you verify, Bach?
I don't. How the fuck? You're just asking me because I'm Asian, bro?
No. Go ahead, Alex. Go ahead. I'll look it up.
My bad.
Yeah.
I could rock it.
Yeah, so Mao was a Jesuit priest because the Jesuits are the masters of communism, not the Jews. And they perfected communism on their Paraguayan slave reductions in the 1600s, enslaving the Guarani Indians in South America to make goods for them. And so the Jesuits are the real problem, not the Jews. And they've infiltrated all the different governments, China, Japan, America, England, Ireland, Scotland, you name it, the Jesuits run it.
Bro, what are you talking about? Like, I don't know. Whatever. At this point, like, I think everybody's got their opinions. Let me shut up.
The Pope of Rome is not your friend. The final Pope of
He's the
Rome-
Black Pope.
That's
Definitely everybody
But why
has their
doesn't
own
China-
opinion.
Why don't we just let the Pope?
By the way,
appoint
why
whoever
has
he
no
wants in
rapper ever
China?
called himself the Black Pope?
This
Pope is
Because
dope.
the majority of African Americans in the United States have historically have leaned Catholic, which would be considered blasphemy. So they wouldn't do it.
Oh.
So if Mao was a Jesuit and the church controls China, why doesn't the Pope just appoint whoever he wants
I
in
removed him.
China?
I removed him as a speaker.
Oh man,
Okay, that
well
was
I
weird.
get it. To be honest, I get it. Go
No,
ahead.
I like Alex a lot, but it's just so much of one topic.
But this was his time.
Drugs cost just as much as yours. Thank you. I'll be here all week.
That was pretty good. That was fire.
Yeah, that was
respect
good. That was good.
Should we steer this towards the topic of the Vatican war on
Yes, please.
AI?
Yes, I was waiting for that because I had some things to say about the population, but I'm not really an expert, so I let the people in China talk about it. But yeah, yes, please. I'd like to talk about it in relation to the Black Pope versus the front-facing white version that does that, the Pope. And what the Pope saying versus what perhaps the behind-the-scenes Black Pope and related secret organizations might be really doing, because they seem pretty interested in technology, actually.
Did you say white person? So the Black Pope is black for real? For real?
No, I was being just terribly clever. No, I mean there's the Black Pope and then the standard Pope.
Petrus Romanus, baby.
Interesting.
Roman of the Rock.
So, okay, basically they waged this war outside of saying that, Catholic, I guess, priests cannot use it. What else? What else is waging the war mean exactly?
I was just using that term because of the Catholic Church's ban on priests using using AI for homilies in the context of what the Pope said today about the disarmament of artificial intelligence, and he likened it specifically to how the Vatican has always been opposed to nuclear proliferation and always favored nuclear disarmament, and he said that the Vatican's philosophy on artificial intelligence is basically exactly the same as their philosophy on nuclear weaponry. So I don't know how much more anti-artificial intelligence you could be, unless you just did it like a blanket claim that it's satanic for any Catholic to use it in any capacity.
Well, he's talking about in the context of it replacing God and religion too. Also, that was a key note.
He did have the. In fact, for those of you who have joined the space late, very early in this show today, we played a Patrick Bet David clip where he read some of the very specific points that the Pope made. I just want to play.
Civilizational crossroads. Humberto, your thoughts on this?
I think it makes some, and it's
that's the extent of what the Pope did regarding AI. Does that answer your question, Mace?
Oof. Yes, and I agreed with almost everything he said.
Yeah.
Wow.
I think so.
I have one more question for our Chinese guest. Have you seen any Chinese cryptids by any chance? Like a Chinese Bigfoot? Maybe like a weird looking fucking panda that's like part orangutan? Or have you seen a dragon? Or dragon bones?
A Dragon Ball, maybe?
No, not the anime. I'm talking like straight up dragon bones. Like, have you seen any Chinese monsters running around?
Oh man, well, that I've been sworn to secrecy, but go ahead.
You're just not going to tell us. The CCP's not allowing you to tell us about dragons?
Yeah, I was going to tell you something about UFOs. That's not talked a lot about here.
Really?
They don't. I mean, it's not like, it's definitely not coming from the government. But you might have these one-off people on, one of the social platforms saying something about it. But it's not prevalent. And when I ask, like my wife and friends about it, they go,
prevalent.
No, it's just not. It's not something that's discussed.
So you don't have a UFO disclosure?
USA propaganda, right?
Huh?
There's a disclosure thing going on here, like it is in the U.S.
Yeah, it's mostly just here because it was like programmed here.
But you know how like over here in the U.S. they're talking about all the people related to anti-gravity or rocket propulsion going missing. 9 Chinese scientists have also gone killed or missing over there, but they don't talk about that at all.
Well,
I've heard people talk about that. I've heard about that.
In Diligent Space, I was asked about it. I haven't seen it. China Inevitable might have seen it, but I haven't seen anything on. Well, I mean, I know it's talked about, but I don't know the details, and I don't know how true it is. Maybe China Inevitable knows.
Yeah,
more
me
than
neither. Yeah, I don't know any details either, but I have heard like that's gone around even in like some netizens have, kind of gone viral talking about it a little bit, but there's no trail of. I don't know. What do you guys think though? Like, what could be, especially if it's happening in China too, right? Do you think there's some relation, or is this like a cross-governmental warfare, or maybe a black project?
22 Iranian ones, like they were the nuclear scientists, the fusion, and like all of those, which obviously could have been because they, for warfare, but
because they're in the bunkers.
The bunkers.
Well, Caroline
they
Levitt
stole them and took them to like the bunkers and are making just in case there's something apocalyptic. They have some smart people.
Oh yeah, Destiny. Yeah, Destiny is someone who I'm sure could speak to it. I've seen other spaces of yours before, Destiny. So that seems like something up your alley. But like the thing that I was going to speak to is the idea of a black project, because Carolyn Levitt pretty much like kind of feigned ignorance and said, "Hey, yeah, we've heard something about that before. We'll open up an inquiry about it." And to me, it's kind of like there's no way that social media tipped the government off about this. Like they had to have known about this like trail, this consistent trail of missing people, right? So just the fact that they would respond that way and assume and pretend that like they didn't know, I don't know. I think there's probably something deeper to it.
I just don't know why I thought this was a worldwide issue. Like this is mainly just a Western Hemisphere.
Traffic's
issue,
a bigger issue.
Traffic.
I think in China,
it says
it's
recent
probably
international media coverage. April 2026 has highlighted at least 9 to 10 prominent Chinese scientists, mostly in military, AI, hypersonics, drones, space tech, microelectronics, and data security, who died between 2023 and 2026 under circumstances described as unexpected, sudden, or mysterious.
It's the fucking aliens.
Or they just know too much about maybe true shit, right? And
maybe Asians are aliens.
I've never felt that in place here.
Yeah, I think I mean, as far as I can't speak for China, but as far as ours are concerned, I imagine that they're killed by our government. And specifically because I always forget the name of that woman. You guys have reminded me before. The one who famously...
Anna?
Yeah. I mean, she said it was our government that was harassing her and attacking her and looking through her things in her apartment and using directed energy.
Dude, they went through her panty drawer.
Yeah. So I think our government's probably killing ours. I don't know if it's our government killing the Chinese scientists too, or if it's the CCP killing its own scientists, or if something else is going on. But it's pretty obvious that Deep State's doing it here.
I think Anna might be getting more attention than the other scientists that have died because she is adorable. Like, she really is. Or Amy, my bad. Is it Amy? It's Amy, right?
Oh, it is Amy, my bad.
How do you spell her last name?
Eskridge, I think.
ESK.
Yeah, ESKRIDGE.
Okay.
But like she was viral, outspoken about everything. Like I've seen all of her shit. Like it's crazy. She knew all.
Now she's fucking dead. Allegedly
and it won't
suicide.
even make the news.
Yeah, it's our fucking government killing our scientists.
Well, it has to, like, it's.
Yeah, go ahead,
I
Mace.
never said this out loud, but no, go ahead. Go ahead, Inevitable.
You, Mace, we love you. And then Inevitable.
Okay, so I listened to that entire 3-hour podcast, and then I listened to other stuff too because I know she was inebriated. She does not come across to me, and I'm not trying to be judgy or whatever, but I do think that there are important characteristics and specific characteristics that scientists have. I don't see the way that she carries herself and talks. Like, so her vocabulary specifically is very, I hate for lack of better example, Trump uses very basic words. I don't know. I've listened to a lot of her stuff. There's people that she actually converses with and other that interviewed her that just kind of crush it with level of like intelligence,
Yeah,
fluidity.
So
You know what I'm saying?
Grok says she was a plasma physicist, researcher, and interdisciplinary scientist specializing in advanced propulsion, anti-gravity, and exotic physics. Her credentials were she graduated from the University of Alabama in Huntsville with a double major in chemistry and biology. She became highly interdisciplinary with expertise in electrical engineering, physics, plasma, nanotechnology, genetic engineering. Co-founded and served as the chairwoman and president of the Institute for Exotic Science in Huntsville, Alabama, which doesn't require credentials. Focused on cutting edge, often fringe stuff. She worked in the Huntsville area known as Rocket City due to its heavy NASA and defense presence. Her father, Richard Eskridge, is a retired NASA engineer. Obviously, she gained attention for saying all that stuff and then dying. I don't know. I think there are some trendy scientists that have a colloquial dialect.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I mean, I did know that about her father. Did you guys know that 4 scientists were all connected to that same Huntsville, Alabama place that died?
Yeah, so
crazy,
that
but-
adds credence to what she was saying before it happened then too.
I think her being drunk gives her more credibility because it's like,
Doesn't
oh,
she
they're
sound
after
drunk?
me.
Yeah.
I gotta fucking whiskey this away, baby.
I'm not the only one. Yeah, she definitely has like a little bit of an alcohol slur. I mean, I'm drinking right now.
She was. If you watch that whole episode, I think she was like she was drinking the whole time. It was more of a casual hangout.
Right. I mean, I'm doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I was in a space the other day, which I think I recorded some of it. Some friends that are actually here as well, with Jack Sephardi, who's the top expert in this field over the years, and seems to be the most independent one. But yeah, I asked him about this, and he's a very charismatic person who speaks with great certitude about things. And his assessment about the many missing scientists were, well, especially about her. I mean, this is what he's saying. I'm not saying this is true or not, but it kind of lines up with my research that she was not a real scientist herself, nor was she working with any like significant scientists. That's what like a lot of top people that I've talked, in addition
Right,
to Jack.
Mello, because we've been in spaces with every physicist, every quantum physicist. Like I do lots of spaces on this. Like even Ashton Forbes, whether you love him or hate him or whatever, like there's just it oozes off of them. Like it's hard to contain. The reason why I say that is I wouldn't put it past the government. This is my own like me going down the rabbit hole. Like I maybe that's not really Amy Eskridge. I don't know, but I'm black.
Yeah, I mean, there's something to be said for what you're saying because she does only have bachelor's degrees. I mean, Bill Nye the Science Guy is the most famous scientist, or at least at one point in time in the United States of America, and he's got a degree in civil engineering or some bullshit like that.
Yeah, so he was sure that also I don't speak badly of anyone, but yeah, there's a lot of evidence to show that not only is she not a scientist, at all, but she was putting scientists together. So I'm not saying she was completely not interested in these things, but she very erratic personality. You can tell just in this one clip, but also every other clip in her whole history. And I don't mean that negatively to her personally. We all struggle, but that's the sort of prevailing theory and narrative from people who claim to be in the know, right? That she was, that could be the cover story for, she just killed herself because she's great. But she was a very unstable person, sadly, right? And she had just about zero.
So cool.
Yeah, that was way before all this happened, though.
Yep.
But he talks like even though, he's not actively like one of those scientists, you can tell by the way he talks, he knows more of what he's talking about. Still, again, not level of like the deep scientists that are, this is their life. But see, the thing is even when I listen to you play the clip right now, Chase, and I told you I've already listened to the whole thing. I've already clipped it and played it in Spaces, so several times. This time listening to it, it was almost like the things she was saying is almost a narrative for the public. Did you guys get that? Or was it just me? Did like she was like, oh, because it's because I don't know. It was just I can't even really like do it like she did, but it sounded pretty different this time. It hit different.
No, you have a good point. Obviously, ahead of a disclosure, they would plant disinformation, and that if they would have a source which they could refer to that would be discrediting the whole movement on the other side. So you're not wrong about that. That's how information war works, essentially.
And Buck, the guy that so there was two people on that podcast or that whatever hangout. One of them, you couldn't even hear their audio at all. Like their voice did not come through at all. So the only person you could hear was Mark, which is weird because I think with the experience you guys have with streaming, the other guy was the one that was actually streaming. So his voice not coming through is a little bit weird. I don't know.
That is odd.
And
Mark was cool though because he was independent. That's what I appreciated about him is that he was different from all that. But did you see that his lab actually got raided a few years back?
Whose lab?
Mark Stokel, the guy that we had interviewed over in Clubhouse.
Who dated Amy
The guy
Eskridge?
she was talking to right now. Yeah, the guy in that video she was talking to.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
His lab got raided?
Yeah, by the FBI.
You can't make black market Viagra.
No, their lab looks crazy, and it's literally like he was the guy that was like, "No, actually, you can wrap your shit in aluminum foil."
I am the one who cocks.
We have tinfoil around our phones and shit because of the stuff we're working on. I'm like, all right, noted, tinfoil, got it. I mean, he was smarter than a lot of the shit he was explaining was over my head for sure in the science. So he knows what he's talking about, but it's different because he's independent and he's not a part of a group, which was intentional, right? Because he didn't want people to be able to control his research, which is why they started this lab, which is why it's definitely like it's smaller. It's kind of people who actually really care about it and wanted to get into it. So I do think the connection to Amy is just interesting, having known how long he's been working on this stuff.
Well, Bach, what do you think?
I have a high school degree, and I'm lucky to even be in this chair. So they know way more than I do if they've interviewed these people personally in Spaces. Just a young Korean man's thoughts on this. I think it's a unified disclosure. Maybe they're letting the West get ahead of it because things are more likely to be sensationalized in the West. We have a freer system with social media. We have some semblance of free speech. And maybe I just find the whole thing very interesting because similar things are happening in the Eastern Hemisphere in China, but they're not talking about UFO disclosure. That just boggles my fucking mind.
Yo, how old are you, bud?
Me?
Yeah.
I'm 36 years young.
Dude, you're a millennial just like me. Bro, you are so well-spoken for just a high school.
Bud.
Why not?
Yeah, I love Bach. I love the way what are you talking about? I just sit in this
How you
chair.
doing, little bud? How old are you?
Yeah, for an Asian man,
I like the
speak pretty
guy.
well.
I fuck with him sometimes, but like he knows a lot of shit. Like,
Dude, that's why I have him on the show. I'm like, nobody fucking knows who you are. Come on, dude.
I brought up 3 cryptos the other day and he just lists like what all of them do. I was like, yeah, I own all of them, and this is what they do. I was like, holy fuck, this guy's fucking dope.
Wait, MP3, do you actually think that like these people don't like people that especially that I hang out with don't know and like they know everything. They're like encyclopedias. That's why I love them.
But you're not going to tell Jordan.
To give Jordan credit, I am here because of Jordan. So there's that,
He
Jordan
just
rocks.
teases us. He's like, I know everything, and I'm not telling you.
Dude, I got a tongue lashing like no other from Rachel. I'm still reeling
I
from
do.
that.
Maze, I do know everything. You should know that.
But
Hey, Jordan, you coming to China?
Actually, speaking of which, my uncle actually really wants to go over to to Asia, to a lot of different places, surprisingly, and that's why I DM'd you the other day, because I was over at his house and I was talking to him about it, and it's one of those things where this is from my standpoint. Everything is very geo-fenced over here, and everything's very geo-fenced over there, right? So whatever information you're getting from either side isn't necessarily the truth, right? That I truly do believe. I do believe that um what we're being told about Russia, about Ukraine, about Kazakhstan, about Malaysia, about the Philippines is all completely different than when you actually go there and you live it yourself. Now, I personally know this only because I've traveled to these places. So, like, as long as you have like an American Express, dude, you're probably fine. You have a Chase, you're fine. You have a Bank of America card, you're fine. Like,
If
as
you have
long
a
as
Chase, you're fine.
yeah, as long as you subscribe to ChaseGeyser.com and you sign up, for absolutely free.
Yes.
exactly.
Yes.
Shameless shell, just saying. There's one of those things where once you go there and you just experience these things, you'll realize either, oh, what we're hearing isn't the truth or whatever, right? Now,
You're red pilled.
exactly. Now, here's the
right?
thing: is that I also got encyclopedias from 1984, and the wording about Russia and the USSR is much different than what is in there today. Much, much different. It goes from Russia is this and Russia does this to Russia is that and this is what they're about. Them more telling you this is what you should believe, this is what it should be versus, hey, this is what they do. It's very, very different. The wording itself is just different. It's almost like they're trying to rewrite history right in front of you. Similar to kind of the same way that they rewrote the Bible, right? How many times has it been rewritten since its inception? So many times over that 500 years down the line, Chase could tell me, God was actually Asian and he looked like Bach, to Jesus is a white man, to God as a white man, to all these different random stories. And then years and years and years go by and people actually do believe them, which is why I do believe that if you go to China today and you go to Beijing or you go to Shenzhen, what you're gonna, what you're gonna, endure isn't, 1980s China, right? What you're gonna actually see is a train station that just got built in 2.5 years, while we're still waiting on Penn Station in New York, $100 billion later, to get a ninth track. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
These I think these things are actually true, and it's not the fact that I say that, oh, China's so far ahead of us. It's just I don't think that we're as educated as we think we are, because they don't let us see everything. They let us see what we want to see, or we don't get the this happened in China today. We get the this happened in China over the course of the last 3 years. So it's like, dude, they just built one train station. Meanwhile, we can't even, we can barely even get a 787 MAX off the ground without it blowing up halfway across the world, right? There's a lot of different things that I think aren't necessarily the truth. Is our American dollar still stronger than their yen? Yeah, probably so. I would agree with that. But would I say that, like, in terms of technological advancements, are they probably ahead of us by 20 years? Yes, 100%.
The compliment your statement.
Most of the major cities in
Go ahead.
hold on. One of the biggest contrast is that how many cities look like Vegas or look like New York City in America? Zero. Only they're individual. Only two of those. Shenzhen, Beijing. You name all of these cities, they are so far ahead of what Miami or Chicago or Seattle or San Francisco is. It's shocking.
Isn't this conventional wisdom, though? I mean, I agree, but I guess we research here more than most people. But I mean, that information does get out to anyone who wants to look it up. I mean,
yeah, but that's the thing, is that look what you have to say. You have to say if anybody wants. This isn't common knowledge. If you go ask a random American from, the middle of Texas, Do you think where do you think has more technological advancements, America or China? He's probably going to say America. Like I would
Well,
agree that a lot of
I think there's a
Americans think
difference
that.
between urban development and technological advancements. It's really hard to know for sure the difference between Chinese military technology and U.S. military technology. Of course, there's reports that their naval shipbuilding capacity is far superior, that their mine technology is superior. But I mean, it's so classified, and there's so much money in the United States spent in military tech development that I would argue that China has been much better about deploying technology and making cities of the future than the United States. But I don't think that's the same thing as saying that overall Chinese technology is more advanced than the United States. I suspect that our military industrial complex has some pretty fucking wild things going on.
And another thing is people compare Chinese cities to American cities, but no one ever compares Chinese rural towns to American rural towns.
Ooh, good point too.
That's a good point.
I would completely agree with you on that. Here's the thing is that I think that China went with the everybody's going to want to move to the major cities as long as we make them modern and affordable. And America went to, we don't want to be in the cities unless we're working. Let's move to the rural sides. Right. I think that there's two different ways of life between Western and Eastern civilization it's just different. It's just completely different. But what we're told and what they're told, they're told about us is we're fat American slobs, and what we're told about them is that they're 50 years, they're still in the Vietnam and getting out of the mud. We're told two completely different things where realistically we're probably closer together than we probably think. It's just, obviously everybody's seen Top Gun Maverick and I love using it, but the SR-72 Blackbird, right? That thing is real. I don't think people actually understand that thing is fucking real.
Flying Dorito, baby.
Like, yeah, exactly. If you really think that like Mach 10's not realistic, why do you think they're talking about hypersonic missiles? Even just the talk of it, if you can think it, if you can dream it, it's already been developed.
I'm thinking of Einstein-Rosen bridges. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about riding a whole rocket to Mars. Bro, by the time you get there, I will beat you through my little wormhole.
I mean, to be honest with you,
and that wormhole grips, baby.
Until EM drives and warp drives are done, like if you go look up how to build an EM drive, this is possible. So if there's papers on it, if there's theories on it, especially at 2026, by 2045, 2050, I would assume that we'd be there. And I would assume that we'd be well past that a lot faster than we think. I think as things develop and as things go on, all countries, not just one, all countries will start releasing things that they're very, very, very good at an extremely, extremely high level. Higher level than I think most people are ready for. I do believe that. I do believe Russia will do it. I do believe China will do it. I do believe that even fuck Australia will do it.
Uganda,
I think,
Nigeria.
To be honest, I would assume that the Africans are going to come out and say, if you want to come and pillage the land, you're going to come and
we have the vibranium.
Yeah, you're going to have to come pay a heavy price for those metals and all of that like natural resource you want to build these weapons. I do believe that. And even the US is going to go through huge growing pains, and the growing pains that they're going to go through is the scale of difference that I think everybody on this stage knows. There is a massive gap in intellect in the United States. There's a lot of really, really, really smart people, but that group of really smart people is like
counterbalanced
10%.
by Forrest Gump.
Yeah, exactly. Counterbalanced with the 90% of people that like for the last 100 years of their family's generation, right? They have never, they've never gone past X amount of dollars in their, in their family. Nobody's ever invented anything. Nobody's ever had an intellectual conversation like this. There's a huge difference. And I think the growing pain in the US will be that will turn into poverty. Like, and heavy poverty, like to the point where like you'll see, do you remember remember Fifth Element?
Of course.
Chase?
Of course.
So how in the super high rises is going to be that high, crazy weird echelon of really rich people, and then in the slums where the cars are still driving on the concrete underneath the floating cars in the gutters, that's how poverty will be, where, you know, you'll go into a chamber and you'll be working as a mechanical engineer to power a power plant. That's the type of growing pains that America will also go through. I think the whole world might go through that by like 2045, 2050. But that's only because, you know, industrials complexes are going, everybody's going to one up each other. That's all it's going to be. Everybody's just going to try and one up each other all the way through.
Well, America does have one silver lining here. It's like, other than the Gulf Coast states like, you know, UAE or Dubai, quality of life, like I think out of the superpowers, the U.S. has a lot to offer in terms of quality of life, because we can see it with elite capture. When people come here to study, a lot of them aren't going back to China or Russia, other than the Gulf Coast states. Like we have the Second Amendment, we have some semblance of freedom of speech. So we do capture a lot. But are they becoming
CCP agents? Because, like, I hate to say it, Patrick, we did just catch a California mayor going back to, you know, being a secret agent for China. So,
well, I've read into that, and from what I understand, it was before she became mayor. She had her own website, and she lived in, I think it's Arcadia, California, there's a ton of Chinese that live there. And she was posting information on China. The research was that she was doing, she reposted something on Xinjiang about how there's not, genocide going on in there, which I agree with her. It's not happening.
But my bottom line is what Bak was saying, is that, okay, so everybody wants to come here and they want to live here and the quality of life is much better and all these things are great. But now look what we're inviting in. And I will tell you right now that any American is going to tell you, I'd rather just keep them out.
Well, she came in, she migrated when she was young. I think she was 6 or 7 year old when she came in. She got in trouble because she wasn't registered as a foreign agent, and rightfully so. She should be arrested for that. And whatever the law, pushes on her, then that's what she deserves. She should have registered. Was she a Chinese spy? It would be a long, hard reach to get to that point. And, you talk about living a good life. I will not go back I'll go visit family, but the quality of life here for my family is so much better than it would be in the U.S. I mean, I could get a freaking CT scan for $35, and I've got insurance. I've got insurance from MetLife, and I'm so lazy I don't even turn it in, because I just pay the $35 and go, I don't want to mess with turning it in.
Bro, how much are
my own issue? But
how much are boner pills out there? Asking for a friend.
Okay, this is an answer from a friend, because I'm a little bit older.
Everyone has a friend when it comes to boner pills.
Probably about $5.
Oh, that's same.
That's
same
a hell of a price.
Blue Chew.
$5, you fucks.
Yeah.
And Pfizer.
I can get Alex Jones' website. Blue Chew, $5.
I can get Pfizer. You can get Pfizer. You can get Cialis. They're all available here, and it's all over the counter. I don't have to go to the doctor and say, hey, look, I got a little problem with Captain Rowdy here,
They're moving back, and I say that to say this. China cracked down on Macau because I heard a saying, you make your money in China, you hold on to it and bring it abroad. So it's like you go to China to make your money because it's so industrialized, but then holding on to the money and spending it the way you want to spend it is the problem. So you see so many billionaires that were laundering money through the Macau casinos and then bringing it abroad to places like the Gulf state, or ultimately defecting to the United States. Like, is that something that would be tempting to you, to get, 100 acres of U.S. land, to have the protections U.S. law affords?
Okay, in the perfect world, what I would do, I would have land. I would have some farmland. And when I came out to visit the family, I'd fly them in. We all have a good time for 2 or 3 weeks, a month, whatever, and then I'd fly back. I mean, this is my home. This is my home. And until things radically change in the United States, and I'm talking about in the education system, they get rid of the wokey bunch crap. They get rid of the warmongering. I mean, these perpetual wars are just ridiculous. When they start rebuilding infrastructure, when they can finish this 10-year, 12-year project in California on high-speed rails, and serious about providing an infrastructure for the citizens, I would consider it, but it would only be on a vacation. It'd just be strictly vacation. I love living here. It's cheap to travel, and life is good. I work like 25. I work 25 hours a week.
Did you go there for work, Patrick? One thing I'll say is, Patrick, I get the points that you're making here, and Bach, I do understand the points you're making here as well, and I even see it from Chase's point of view, whereas though here's the problem. Here's the problem. Like, would you, if you were making the same amount and those problems were solved, like you're talking about a high-speed rail in California that realistically, if we were at, I would say 1960s to 1990s America, that rail system's already on its way and being done, right? Realistically, I don't know we all know the fraud that's going on in California. You know, nobody can put their hands on it magically, right? We get that. But what he's saying is that if through and through, if you were getting your train station, you were getting your salary, you were getting your farmland, you were in the same position that you are in China, would you choose China or the United States? That's the question. Not if there was a rail or if it was this. It was like, what would you choose if the conditions were the same? China or America? And I don't think that's a hard choice. The answer is America. That's why it took you so long to say that.
Obviously, choose China because his turn signal was on.
No, so let me. Yeah, that was the driver. That was my my handler. She's taking me home. I'm kidding.
Handler.
Yeah, it's a joke.
I barely know her. I barely know her.
If everything was the same, and here's the nuance. If the education system, and we talked about this earlier. I don't know if you were in there, George, but the education system.
I was listening, but I've talked to you about the education system. You know, I feel about it in the U.S.
It's insane. It's fucking insane here. And the leadership here, even Xi himself, has admitted that it's a problem for children. It's too much stress. And if the education system if everything were the same and the education system was less stressful for the children, then I would consider it on a temporary basis. And then I would probably move back here because I just like living here. I mean, there's so much history. So that's hopefully that answers your question. And it's not a deflection. It's just kind of how I feel based on the scenario that you gave me.
They don't pop up?
No.
What's that?
Go ahead. Bach was talking to me. Sorry.
Oh, look who's back. Back again. Welcome, Rachel. How are you? Did you feel your ears ringing? Anyway, I'm glad she's here so we can all come together in love and forgiveness.
You ready to work it out, Bach?
Yes.
I don't want to get yelled at again.
Fight. Oh no. Is he here? I don't see him.
Oh, he's here. He's speaking through my profile.
Oh, hi. I'm sorry. I was so yeah, it was bad. I was telling Maze last night, I was like, shit, I feel so guilty now. I was like,
She's been fucking.
Yeah, and he said he was like, I tell her I said I'm sorry, I didn't mean it like that. And the thing is, to be honest with you, they trolled me way fucking harder the night before. So he was probably thinking it's all like they're all, they don't care. But yeah.
no, in that same space, somebody had come in and said, this is all demonic and this is like witchcraft and this is all witches. And I was
I
like,
told him that. Yeah, I told him
I was already like, man, I get called a demon enough on this app. I'm like, Crystal girl, what?
You just weren't a luck box there, Bach, with your timing. That's all. But anyway, I'm glad that's.
No, but I do apologize because I was so freaking harsh,
That's all right. Wouldn't be the first time I got yelled at.
And I will say this. China's ability to get with the program is much different than America's get with the program. If China elects, fuck it, YOLO, we're building data centers and we're going full max. America's cooked at that point. Yes, they will fall behind because people are citizens are revolting against technological advancements. That I would say in 50 years, if whoever decides let it go and let it happen, yeah. And if China can build 50 nuclear power plants before we can build 5 or 10, yeah, I would say it's game over. But that also, we've also seen the other horror stories of abandoned cities in China, right? They tried to do it, tried to make it, super advanced, and then, you know, governments buying back cities, and there's only 10,000 people in a city that can enable 1 million, right? There are those, and that's not a facade. No person in China is going to tell me that doesn't exist, because they do exist.
Well,
No,
But
they
that's what
do.
they
I
just
I
said.
agree. I agree
Oh,
with you.
you agree?
I agree.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. Because I've been to them. I've seen them. Like in our own apartment complex. I mean, it's maybe 7 or 8 years old, and there's still a lot of units that haven't been sold yet. I mean, what their goal is it's the idea of build it and they will come. They're trying to bring in all the people, not all, but a lot of people in from the countryside into these larger cities, and they're providing the housing to do that. The
Are they
the
smart
positive,
cities?
like in what sense?
Any sustainable development goals sense, like where they're networked and Internet of
but you see
Things?
what I'm saying, Maze? The way of migration for suburban to city is the opposite of how it is in America. Like completely opposite. They're saying they'll build it and they'll come. We're saying if you build it, we're leaving.
Well, yeah, so I agree. I think it's a matter of preference, but it's also a matter of cost, right? Like in New York City, people have to drive across the bridge because they can't afford to live in the city. Otherwise, they probably would. Same with San Francisco and the West Coast and stuff, because you're all over the place. So the cost is like tremendously more. I mean, to get a rat hole apartment, you know, in like San Francisco, when you could just drive across the Bay Bridge and get a very decent 2 bedroom, at probably even less. So but I agree with you. I think that there is something about Americans who love the rural suburban life. That is part of kind of baked into the American dream more so than the cities.
I think
And that's okay too. That's totally okay. That's people prefer to drive. I think if America within the cities like Houston, Dallas, if they had a more comprehensive, uh, subway
Oh no! Oh
infrastructure.
no! Patrick, I can tell you right now, if Amtrak only costs $3 and you could get from the bottom of Virginia to Boston, you would see people moving all over the place, and developments would be coming in every station in between, and you would see development like you never have. The problem is like Bach had said, is that if we get the price control in range and affordable, then would you do that? You see what I'm saying? Then would you do it?
Yeah, yeah.
Yes, because the dynamic would be different. I think that's a bigger thing. And I think moving to the suburbs, quote unquote, is, like May said, is built into the American dream. I think that's like one of those things. Once you get the job, you don't live in the buildings, right? You just leave and get a house in the middle of nowhere. I think that's more the American dream than, living in China, where the office, your apartment, the gym, the court, the food place, everything's built into the same building. That doesn't really, to be honest with you, there's very few places in America that have that. Like, truthfully.
No, I agree. I mean, like where I live, I'm outside of we live in a gated community, and outside of it, I've got my gym, I've got the dry cleaners. It's a boat, and I'm gonna take the family out. We're gonna island hop, and we're country hop.
Don't give up on
Get
Pax
water
Americana.
distillation. That's all you need.
What you mean? Pax Americana is over. Let me tell you, we're on.
Oh
the
my gosh, Maze, it's
Nexus.
over with
Let
that
me tell you.
attitude.
Bach Americana.
Hey, listen, no, I'm not even being, even though I am being funny, but I'm not.
Pax Americana.
Listen, I'm so glad Destiny's here because she's the queen of research.
Shit, I thought it was the other Destiny for a second. I was like, fuck.
Destiny Child.
No. Listen, man, he needs to change his name. It's not a damn boy name anyway. So, so Pax Romana, it was Pax Romana, then it was Pax Britannica, then Pax Americana. Now it's Pax Silica. Look it up, Chase. I'm telling you, you guys could probably find little videos on it. We did spaces on it. This is kind of like moving outside of the regional type of level of control. The power structures are now beyond, borders. They're how many people signed up, Des? Or how
I
many
think
countries?
it's like 17 nations or so. I think it started with 12. I think they're up to 17 or 18 now.
Yeah, and so they're building this kind of like, it's all based on technology and AI.
That's right here.
We just did a deal with the Philippines that's never been done in the history of the world. It's an AI manufacturing zone, over 4,000 acres. It's basically a big American colony inside a former American colony. And it's designed to China-proof our supply chain. Manila gave it to us for 99 years. And they even threw in diplomatic immunity, so no parking tickets.
That's Jesse Waters.
He doesn't mention the 99-year-long lease of 4,000 acres in Israel.
Yep.
He just
you know
mentions
where
the
they have the
Philippines.
bomb that they stole? Well, the bombs, the nuclears heads. Now that U.S. has got a 99-year lease, it's technically on our land, so now they can kind of bypass all of the.
They bypassed the nuclear proliferation treaty that says that they cannot work with nuclear material of a certain grade because we will technically own the land. So again, as historical precedence has always been, they'll not be held accountable for any nuclear materials in the area.
Guys, I love you. I got to go to bed.
Good night.
Love you guys.